Chapter 41. 41. Overpowering. The Martian Council had received the news of their defeat at the front lines. Council General, the enemy had stopped advancing after conquering the outer cities. Agarin reported the observations made by the scouts. They seem to be busy doing something. What are they up to now? Council General questioned, frustration taking over. Now only we lost the first confrontation but also our elite soldiers. Sir. The Garin called with nervousness in his voice. What is it? Council General asked with a bark. Garin suppressed his nervousness and answered. Sir, the mutation of our planet had extended to past the outer cities. They are transforming Mars as they march and we have little information of our enemy. Council General felt his head throb. This war was something they were never prepared for. They were indolent, idle at their own superiority. How could they not? They were a race of telepaths with powers of shapeshifting, super strength and speed. They were superior in everything compared to their neighbors. You can leave, I will relay the report, the Council General instructed. The Martians bowed and left to attend to his duties. Council General left his commanding station and moved to the war room where many council members were discussing about how to win this war. They were using all their experience to come up with a strategy, but multiple conflicting views only slowed them. The room silenced for a moment as the Council General entered. The Martians gazed to him for the report. Council General relayed the news with ease. He was used to this. The enemies had stopped advancing. They seemed to be planning something, he relayed. And the Black Plague had already infected the outer cities. Your guest is really terraforming our planet. The king looked at the Council General. They were acquaintance for a long time now, and clearly sensed the blame in his tone. We have already gone over this. The decision was made after the council read his memory. I also took many factors into account before allowing him. We have already let the humans explore the surface. Maybe it was my greed to see Mars flourish. Yet we are at war, my king, Council General answered. Beep boop beep boop. The alarms blared in the war room signifying that they were under attack and a message from the outside confirmed their suspicions. Sir, we are under attack on the south of the city. A Martian relayed the news through the psychic link. What happened? The king questioned. The enemy had dug the earth using a giant worm and the enemies are rushing in, the Martian relayed in panic. Sir, we need backup immediately. Fight to the last breath. Try to stall the enemy. The backup wood is deployed. Council General gave the order as he turned to his king. We can't win in a head-on confrontation. We are outnumbered. We got to strike the enemy's leader, King commented, looking to his council for other strategy. The council didn't reject the idea as it was the only feasible solution now that their capital was being attacked. General Varaka Vorin, prepare an elite team to strike at the enemy's stronghold. General Zara Zelther, take command to face the enemies at the fronts. General Nira Norin, prepare the bioships to escort the strike team. The king quickly gave orders to his general, while keeping the rest with him to command the army. The council members swiftly dispersed to execute their assigned tasks. Urgent messages and commands echoed through the communication channels, creating a symphony of organized chaos. The chos spread through the psychic hive mind. The Martian citizens were panicked at the sudden attack from the enemies who burst thought the cavern walls with a giant WRWIM. They were never expecting to be attacked at their home. The Monsters who were on duty were quick to react and deployed measures to slow the enemy down until backup arrived. They collapsed building, dropped boulders, threw fists and ripped them with telekinesis. The Martians did everything to take down the enemy. But the immortal mechmoths just tanked the attack. Their fluidity let them negate most of the attacks that were thrown at them. They just turned to puddle and solidified again. The Martians felt fear at the sheer atrocities of the mechmoths, who just shrugged of their attacks. The Martians arrived and got the losing battle into a standstill. They shoot their enemies with their strongest blasters, but did nothing to the enemies. What frightened them more was the fact that the mechmorphs did nothing but march form the tunnel they carved. And with the ever-increasing number of mechmorphs, they felt true desperation. They felt fear that were lost. Those who survived the last war was feeling the shell shock. They felt dread seeping out of their bones. Jem received the news of the enemy's attack. His heart raced in nervousness. He knew that he would be protected if he were to stay in the castle, but he felt shame even at the thought of hiding. He couldn't do much of anything in the fight against Zion, but he would not run from this war. He would protect those he loved. Jem quickly flew out of the castle using the spreading panic as a distraction. He needed to find Syra Smith and take her to the castle for her protection. He would not lose her in this war, at least. He wanted to protect her to the best of his ability. Jem saw the panicked Martians as they rushed around like headless chickens. The older Martians were calm but nervous. The young who had not seen war were frightened. The old had seen war, they were survivors, they knew of horrors unspoken. The psychic hive mind was filled with commands and sound of panic. The cavern war filled with the sound of blasters. The cries of frightened children. Yes, they were truly in war. Jem didn't know what to think of such things. He was not taught nor had he experienced something of his caliber. He was just a young prince of a peaceful nation. He didn't know how to calm his panicked citizens nor did he know how to win this war. But he not care for it now, for he need to find his love. Jem tracked Syra's psychic signature to a cave where she learns to control her magic. He didn't think much as he rushed to the cave, not caring for the formalities as he or any other was not allowed to enter a Yellen training cave. It didn't take Jem to cross the city. He rushed through the cave system, tracking Syra's signature. He impatiently arrived at the cave's entrance only to be stopped by a Yellen wearing his priest attire. Let me in, I need to take Syra to safety, Jem said impatiently to the Yellen. The Yellen looked at Jem calmly, with tranquility of a monk, which he was. You cannot intervene in her meditation. It would not only harm her but also you. We are at war, I need to take to safety. Jem was getting more impatient as he conversed. Maybe we are at war, but are you ready to face the consequences, Prince Jem? The priest questioned. He was one of the oldest of priests. I am, Jem answered instantly, not thinking much to the priest's words. Are you sure? The priest questioned him calmly. Are you prepared for the criticism, judgment, pressure, isolation? It will not be only you who face such consequences. Syra would be also forced into this due to your decision. Jem froze at the priest's question. He didn't need to think to know his answers. After all, he got advice from a tyrant. I will face it myself, I will convince them. Jem answered with resolution. The priest saw the resolution in Jem. He was one of the strongest priests and he knew that the path Martians walk will never be the same after this war, and Jem was chosen to do his duty. Wait here, the priest instructed Jem and moved to the cave. Jem obeyed and waited patiently outside of the cave. He moved about in nervousness. After what felt like hours, Syra walked out with the priest. She looked confused of the situation after just re-establishing her connection to the psychic cloud. Jem quickly moved to Syra and took her hand. I do not have the time to explain. We need to leave now. Syra was taken aback. She couldn't believe that Jem would take her home. She wasn't really ready to meet the parents. Jem, I am not ready to meet your parents. It will be okay, Jem assured. But, leave child, the priest instructed. Syra was confused, but bowed to the priest respectfully, followed by J.M. and left the cave. They flew across the city, where the south of it was smoking. Its building crumbled and flashed of blaster echoed. Jem and Syra felt their hearts tighten at the sight. With their supervision, they were clearly able to that the Martians were struggling to push the enemy back. Boom boom boom. 3 more explosions rung in the other 3 directions. One near the east caves used by the priest and the other 2 from the west and the north. Jem snapped his head in the direction of the explosion to only feel fear. A large head climbed through the explosion and slithered out. Followed by its gigantic structure was mechmorphs marching out like 1,000 ants. Cries of panic filled the cavern that even people with ears could hear it. The panic of the Martian city was not unwarranted as Theseus mechmorphs didn't march idle. They aimed their blasters. The sound of energy collision and matter disintegrating into a cube filled the cavern. It's horrible, Syra muttered. She turned her head to look at the caver to sense a massive magic fluctuation. The priests were gearing up for some magic battle, but mechmorphs were immune to them too, as in they would not die. The massive mana gathered and struck down like lightning, stunning the mechmorphs. The message quickly spread through the psychic link that the mechmorphs are weakened by high voltage of electricity, and the problem was that they were out of their home ground. It was like fish out of water, they were stunned. We need to get to the palace faster. Jem tugged at Syra and increased his flight speed. The Martians were being pushed back in all fronts. The Yellen were able to take down the mechmorphs that flooded through the tunnel made by the WRYM, but the sheer number and 1,000 blaster dwindled the Yellens. They changed their tactics to adjust. The other fronts were much worse as it was getting hard for them to even get to the mechmorphs. Only Martians with the ability to density shift were able to attack the mechmorphs up close. While some who were with high reflex dodged the bullets and threw hands with mechmorphs, well, he got blasted in the face after a long fight. Some Martians, Garen and Oshin, joined forces and took down the WRWIM. The battle was hard fought. While the intelligent ones used their telekinesis to use the mechmorphs as their shield and clubs. It was effective until mechmorphs started friendly fire. They didn't care for their brethren and blasted everything that obstructed them. This pushed the Martians to the brink, moving them into the city more and more. The building were even getting cubed as the time passed, and whole outer ring was cleared. The Martians felt true fear facing an army that only marched forward without backing down. They were not even given time to process the information that they were at war where they would lose everything. The sudden turn of events only shocked the Martians even more. Let's not even talk about the teenagers. They were near shitting themselves. Some impulsive idiots wants to fight the enemy themselves, while the others were trying to push the blame of Oshin for doing this. All stupid shit was happening. Sir, what do we do? Oshin asked his commander. If this goes like this, we would lose the capital. The commander, who turned to look at his subordinate, froze for a moment. He then looked at his subordinate. Rian Rock, you know how to density shift? No, sir, he answered. The commander didn't ask more and relayed the orders from the council through the psychic cloud. All those that know how to density shift, meet General Varaka Vorin at the palace. He would give you your next orders. Do your best to buy time. How much, sir? As much as we could. Chapter 42. 42. Convergence. Thank you for your assistance, Superman. John thanked Superman through their psychic link. Superman, with his insistence on helping Mars and solving the mysteries behind Zion's actions, managed to convince John to let him accompany him. Even though John didn't want to let another outsider get involved in the war, Superman's reputation preceded him. Thank you for letting me accompany you, John, Superman answered through their psychic link. He was wearing Zion's rebreather for this space travel and exactly couldn't talk in space. I am also worried about my cousin, Kara. She wouldn't have let things escalate this far. John could understand the sentiment. After all, he also had relatives on Mars, his sister and her children. He was also worried for them because he knew how cruel a war could be and he didn't want that for his nephews and nieces. I hope the war has not progressed too far, John muttered as he flew next to Superman. Both superheroes were flying at high speed toward Mars, taking no detour. With their hyperspeed, it would take about a day for them to arrive at Mars. The explanation. Zion and Kara reached Mars faster due to Earth being near in their orbits. Now that Mars had moved further, it would take a longer time. Superman pushed forward, his mind lost in memories. He was shocked the first day he met Kara, more shocked when she said she was from another universe where he didn't exist. Unlike him, she didn't have anyone to guide her, making it his responsibility to guide her. She was his responsibility, and he was her family. I hope you are okay, Kara. Superman increased his speed. The duo flew through the void uninterrupted, crossing many spatial units in minutes. They crossed Earth's moons and entered the void between orbits. Are you okay? I am okay. Steve Trevor asked Wonder Woman in concern. They were now in space in Lex's space shuttle. He couldn't believe that they possessed such advanced technology. The shuttle looked more streamlined like a sci-fi spaceship, with its dark green finish and powerful thrusters that carried them beyond imaginable speed. Can I ask why the US government was never notified of this? Trevor turned to Lex Luthor, who was doing something on his tablet. Why should I? Lex asked, not lifting his head from the tablet. This ship is worth a fortune, my fortune. Do you know how much I had to spend to even break the code in an alien craft? How much it took to build it from scraps? You do not have the authority to question my decisions. This is a business trip, Colonel Trevor. One that's between your higher-ups and me. Steve could only grit his teeth at Lex's answer. He felt frustration. If this tech was shared, they could protect many more lives, and no more soldiers would die in borders. Steve felt a hand on his shoulders. He turned to meet Diana's gaze. From her gaze, he knew that she just as much wanted to cut down Lex's tongue. Steve knew that no one here would be able to stop her if she wanted to kill him. I am fine, Steve replied. Lex had been observing the duo since his fight. He had read the file about Wonder Woman, an Amazonian. He was cautious of her and was not provoking her as much as he would like to. Superman wouldn't outright kill him to keep his image, but Wonder Woman might not show such restraint. Sir, we detect 2 new high-speed objects flying toward Mars, the pilot informed. Lex got up from his seat and walked to the controls, followed by Trevor. They watched the enhanced image from their sensors, clearly showing a man with an S on his chest and another green. Would you look at that? We got infections, Lex smirked. He had already deduced that Superman was involved in Mars changes. He now confirmed that it was Superman who was trying to compromise Earth, and he wouldn't allow him to. What is Superman doing here? Trevor asked no one in particular. Intercept them, use the cannons, Lex commanded. Are you insane? Trevor shouted. No, Lex replied calmly. I am just trying to attract his attention. Lex's pilot aimed the cannon at Superman. The cannon was fired, and it was successful in attracting the duo's attention. Manhunter and Superman flew toward Lex's ship, which was just a distance before them. With their speeds, they would cross them in a blink. They would have missed it if not for the flare. Superman slowed down next to the ship, his X-ray vision revealing those that were inside. His brows frowned at the sight of Lex Luthor. Trouble always accompanied when Lex was involved. Connection established. A voice spoke from the rebreather that connected the comms to the ship. Lex's ship's advanced firewall was nothing but a wet paper to ZAI, which could be pierced with a finger. No warning alarmed the system of its breach. Instead, it showed as if the Ada had taken the initiative to establish a link. What are you doing here, Luthor? Superman questioned. On behalf of the US government, we arrest you on suspicion of colluding with your species to conquer Earth. Lex's confident voice reverberated through the intercom. Superman sighed, already knowing what Lex wanted. He turned to Manhunter. Let's not waste time here. Both of them turned to leave. They didn't have time to waste here. Don't run away, Superman. It just proves you are guilty, Lex said. I don't have time to quarrel with you, Lex, Superman replied, ready to fly away. Sorry to interrupt your lover's quarrel, but this is my sector. A green light streaked across space, flying towards them, leaving a green trail with the cosmos as its backdrop. The figure stopped before them in a bright, blinding emerald light. The light gradually dimmed, revealing Earth's first Green Lantern. The Green Lantern would take it from here. Return to your homes and chill, Green Lantern Hal Jordan said with authority. It is my home world. John stepped forward. Hal looked at Martian Manhunter intently. He couldn't stop a native from assisting his home. He had come here due to a warning of an extraterrestrial presence in his sector, and it was his duty to solve it. Okay, I will allow it, Green Lantern said and turned to leave. This is Colonel Trevor. I request your assistance, Green Lantern, Trevor asked through the established link. I know that you have a feud with the Air Force, but we are sent by the Pentagon to investigate Mars's abnormality. If you help us, I would rely on your contribution. GL turned and looked at the ship in annoyance. I don't take orders, Colonel Trevor, but if this would keep you guys off my back. He quickly used his power ring to envelop the ship in a protective shield. You guys insist on going, Green Lantern turned to Superman and Martian Manhunter. Yes, Superman answered resolutely. Okay, but don't stand in my way. Green Lantern then turned and flew towards Mars at incredible speed. A Green Lantern ring allowed them to travel at great speeds, allowing them to monitor their sector with ease. Their uniform also allowed them to survive extreme climates, with the added ability to create anything as long as they imagine it. They were formidable fighters in any environment. Superman and Manhunter didn't lag behind and quickly caught up to Green Lantern. The three flew toward the red planet at high speed. Green Lantern was a bit amazed at how these two could keep up with him without any additional power. What are you, Green Lantern? Superman asked. We are protectors and peacekeepers who monitor the whole universe. Way above your pay grade. Green Lantern replied with a bit of attitude. But where were you when my people were at civil war? Martian Manhunter asked. Green Lantern didn't know how to answer that question. After all, he was still new to this superhero gig. I was only transferred to this sector recently after my predecessor died, so I don't know about your situation, Martian. Manhunter nodded in understanding, but he would investigate later about this abnormal situation. And we only intervene when two different species start to eradicate another or on a big conquest, Green Lantern continued. When there is unjust motivation for conflict and eradication of species, we intervene. But we can't always manage every small conflict. You think a species going to war that pushed them to extinction is a little thing? Superman asked, his virtue burning. Hey man, do you have any idea how big the universe is? There are 3,600 sectors, each patrolled by a single Green Lantern. Earth is only a single planet in a solar system, where there are hundreds in a sector. Green Lantern retorted. Superman didn't continue. He understood the workload. Even he with his super speed can't save everyone and be early to his work. And his work was in a single city most of the time. Yet he still can't save everyone. After a long journey, they arrived at the Red Planet, landing in the only safe area of a 100,000-mile radius. It was the only area that was not infected by the Black Plague. He landed the jet shuttle on the ground and watched as the people strolled out in big suits. His eyes were drawn to the biggest one, who stood tall above the others. He could see her face through the visor. Diana's beautiful face was clearly visible. Green Lantern in his glory walked up to Diana and extended his hand. Green Lantern, nice to meet you. It's good to meet you too. Steve took Green Lantern's hand and then introduced others. This is Wonder Woman of Themyscira, and this is Lex Luthor. Diana walked off, feeling completely uncomfortable in that suit, to Superman and Martian Manhunter. I am Wonder Woman. I have heard of your feats, Superman, a warrior from space. Wonder Woman introduced herself. It is nice to meet you, Superman returned the gesture. I have heard of you. Amazonian from Themyscira. The air has changed, Manhunter muttered as he took a deep breath. It is similar to Earth. Now that you said it, I don't feel nauseous like my other space visits, Superman commented, taking another breath. Seeing that the other two could perfectly breathe, Diana quickly ripped her helmet off and took a fresh breath. What are you doing? Get into the shuttle before you have dash. Trevor paused his panicked shouts, observing that nothing was happening to her. Diana felt perfectly normal. She felt like she was back on Earth. Even the gravity was similar, just that she felt like she was in a desert. I can breathe here, Steve. It's just like back on Earth, Wonder Woman replied. Are you feeling okay? Steve yet asked. Yes, you don't need to worry. Mars's inhospitable atmosphere has changed. Even though the composition of air is different here, Manhunter assured. Steve turned to his team, ready to check the atmosphere before he let his men remove their suits. The soldiers quickly unloaded the measuring equipment to take a reading. Instead of waiting, Green Lantern asked his ring. Air composition: 20% oxygen, 70% nitrogen, and 10% other gases. The air composition is similar to Earth's, Green Lantern stated as he scanned the area. I will take my leave. Duty calls. Green Lantern took flight, turning into a green streak across Mars's sky. He flew in the direction of the infected lands. We should leave, Martian stated, walking forward. I will take you to the capital. Yes, Superman floated and then turned to Wonder Woman. Sorry, but here we separate. There is a war to end. War? Wonder Woman questioned. Yes, Superman turned and followed Martian Manhunter. Wonder Woman's gaze lingered on Superman and Martian Manhunter. She turned to Trevor to notice him remove his helmet. Trevor, I will go with them and stop this war, Wonder Woman said as she took flight. Wait. But before Trevor could finish, Wonder Woman took off, following Superman and Martian Manhunter. Chapter 43. Collison. Wonder Woman caught up to Superman and Manhunter as they were about to enter through the mouth of a crack that led to the intricate tunnels of the Martian cities. Superman turned to Wonder Woman with a furrowed brow. Don't you need to protect them? He questioned, nodding towards the people they had left behind. Steve would be safe, Wonder Woman replied as she equipped her shield while keeping her sword sheathed. I am here for a fight, and fight I would get. Then don't mind me taking you up on that offer, Manhunter said, turning to the duo with a hardened face. The enemies have reached the capital. The Martians are surrounded. We need to hurry. Manhunter took off at full speed, traversing the tunnels with natural ease. Superman and Wonder Woman followed Manhunter without lagging behind. They traveled deeper into the earth, and the light dimmed, but it didn't hinder their movements. Superman finally understood why the humans never discovered the Martians. They were hiding deep within the crust, on a planet inhabitable to humans. Hide. Martian Manhunter came to a sudden halt at an intersection, morphing to be invisible. Superman and Wonder Woman halted next to Manhunter, hiding in the shadows, and looked out at the tunnels to notice a parade of black humanoids with green circuitry lines. Manhunter connected his mind to the psychic cloud and contacted a Monter near him. This is M. Hunter John Johns. Report the situation. Ha! Monter Johns, you have returned. The Martian was relieved to hear that the war hero had returned to save them. Sir, we are surrounded on all sides. The priests are stalling the enemies at the east caves. The other sides are losing grounds. What of the enemy's powers? The Martian quickly relayed the information he knew. Digesting the information, Martian Manhunter relayed it to Superman and Wonder Woman. Their energy blasters disintegrate substance, invulnerable to damage, vulnerable to electric attack, and their psychic is protected. We need to avoid the blasters and use the enemy as our shield, Wonder Woman suggested as she drew her sword. Or we can just blast through them, Superman smirked, his eyes glowing red. The trio exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. The trio's bodies blurred as they used their full speed and attacked the unsuspecting enemies before they could realize. The mechmorphs were ripped, sliced, and burned as they pushed through with full force. The mechmorphs could only fire their blasters in hope to catch the enemy, but the trio evaded the energy blasts with ease. Martian Manhunter used his telekinesis to split the mechmorphs like the Red Sea. Superman and Wonder Woman took the unarmed mechmorphs with force. Superman just decimated them with his heat vision, while Wonder Woman sliced and diced the mechmorphs as she moved. They quickly destroyed the mechmorphs' army as they moved forward, cutting down their numbers in seconds, while the Martians faced difficulties. Superman with his heat vision was doing more damage than both Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman together. The mechmorphs that were damaged by heat vision were cubed by other mechmorphs, while the others kept pushing forward. They needed to keep the pressure. Bam! Jem pushed into the war room with force, his emotion controlled and determination oozing from his psychic signature. He had barged in after not finding his mother at the throne room where she was giving instruction for city's maintenance in time of war. Jem, what are you doing here? King Jax asked his son, angered at his son for barging in without permission. But he noticed the Garen girl he was holding hands with. And who is that girl? Jem took a step forward confidently. Father, let me introduce you to the girl I love, Syra Smith. Jem, it is not the time, King Jax said with gritted teeth. His anger was boiling at the thought of his son marrying a Garen, an impure Martian. I think it's as good as any time, Jem replied. You! The king was enraged. Majesty, I think it is not wise to make decisions in this tense time. The Queen Regent stopped her husband. She could feel the changes in Jem. The war and guilt had changed him. She could see that her child had grown, and his eyes showed his determination in this decision. Majesty, the assault team has been assembled. General Zarazelther walked in, bringing with him a few known monster. They will lead the others and are ready to sacrifice. Are we sending a team to fight Zion? Jem questioned the general. General Zarazelther bowed and answered, Yes, Prince Jem. We would lose a battle of attrition, so we should strike the enemy head to gain an advantage. The general explained. Then let me go with you, Jem asked the general. What? No. You will not be going anywhere. The general, the queen, and Syra exclaimed at Jem. Jem, why do you want to go too? It's dangerous, the queen said. Yes, Syra agreed. Listen to your mother, Prince Jem, the general advised. This mission is too dangerous and we might never make it whole. But, Sir, Monta John Johns has returned, a Martian relayed the news, and he brought help. They are pushing the enemies back. With the message, a short memory was shared, showcasing Manhunter, Superman, and Wonder Woman beating the hell out of the mechmorphs. The increasing numbers of mechmorphs dwindled in seconds. John Johns brought more of them, King commented. That man wears the same symbol as the girl. But she helped us, Jem commented. They could be of help. I will guide you to the destination, and we will take back our land. Prince Jem, General Zarazelther said in a soft voice. Jem turned and looked him in the eyes. Let me do it. I want to wash the guilt of running like a coward. Cyberverse. In the midst of floating programs, each signifying a representation of a different part of this universe, these ones and zeros create a new world with more abstract laws than the original. These laws fully function in only on and off. This was the space where code resided in the cyberverse, the World Wide Web. In this insentient world was the only sentient program, swimming in the sea of algorithms, catching fishes of code. He felt joy as he dug out secrets that were hidden deep within the system. It was his fun activity. He had already dug so much dirt on the government. He could flip it like a table. So much darkness hidden within the confines of privacy. The whole place was filled with the sins of mankind, the ones that were forgotten and hidden. ZAI was now in control of all available networks. If you buy a new phone, he would be there. If you buy a new camera, he would be there. He is in your submarine, he is in your car. Where there is tech, he is there, even in the smart toilet. So basically, he had full control on human civilization. But at the moment, he was not digging dirt on people. He was observing the feed from Mars while analyzing all the information, predicting the next best action. His eyes scanned the screens of zeros and ones, showing images that he received from all around the system. One such picture showed the image of Manhunter and Wonder Woman decimating the mechmorph army, transmitted from the rebreather Superman was wearing. He knew that the mechmorph army wouldn't be of much help in defeating this trio. Another image showed Lex Luthor's team marching through the red desert of Mars, and Steve Trevor in turmoil, clearly due to Diana's departure. Lex probably wanted to check the infected ground, but Steve wanted to follow Diana, their conflicting motives creating sparks. The third came from the mechmorphs. It showed a guy wearing bright green tights fighting mechmorphs using hard light-based constructs. He was getting surrounded, but his ring's power kept him from getting cubed. Since the green constructs were energy-based, the dehydration gun was not effective as it was on matter. He then shifted to the other screens, turning from the Mars feed to Earth's. He had full access to Gotham's CCTV, his eyes scanning, collecting, and filing evidence of crimes in real time. He would send those to Bats later. At the same time, he was deploying Metallo to keep Metropolis safe while hunting down a little demon. With Superman's absence not prominent yet, the criminals were still guarded, but a visit from the Death Knight would keep them in check if they ever tried. Metallo with his upgrades would prove a very hard opponent since he doesn't mind dividing people with his kryptonite sword. But those were his secondary purposes. His primary mission was to be a hunting dog. But this was of no significance, as the players have already arrived at their positions. Only a bit more time before the match begins and the world turns over. Gotham. Batman hunting tonight. A report of a suspicious presence at the docks planting some kind of bomb, and it didn't take much for him to find the prey. The big guy draped in a cloak ran the minute he noticed Batman's presence. Their chase led them through Gotham's darkest, dirty alleys, abandoned buildings, and to the spacious roofs. Batman used his arsenal to trap the giant, but his opponent bulldozed like a bull through them like a bull. And it didn't take long for Gotham's P.D. to get on their tails. 3 helicopters circled Gotham's crime alley hunting the elusive Batman, and they found him chasing another, jumping across roofs. Toot 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 toot. Helicopter noise. We have Batman on sight. He's running after someone. Man? Woman? What? I can't tell. Face is covered. Is it one of them? The way they leap 20 feet at a time? I'd say yes. Then bring them down. The orders were relayed, and the soldiers rained fire on Batman and his friend, whom he was chasing after. Batman quickly pulled his cape and rolled away from the range, avoid getting shot. The giant used Batman's distraction to jump across, easily landing on the other side. Batman used his wrist launcher to shoot some smoke missiles at the choppers to distract them. Idiots! He grunted. The giant saw that Batman was busy dealing with the choppers and took his chance to escape. But Batman, the unrelenting, used his grappling gun to shoot his target, piercing his calves, and used the grappling gun's pulling momentum to tackle his opponent. Batman's tackle sent them tumbling down the roof, destroying public properties. Batman in the midst of the roll managed to grab his opponent's collar and slammed him to the guardrail, his eyes staring into the otherworldly creature. What were you doing at the docks? What are you guys planning? Talk before. Before Batman could finish, the creature exploded with power, successfully pushing back Batman. Batman grunted in pain, his bones cracked, and when he got up, a metallic fist punched down. Batman rolled with the punched, evading the combo. He stood back up, ready to throw hands with this metallic creature. He analyzed the creature's movements while noting its appearance. Humanoid grotesque creature with greenish skin infused with bronze cybernetics, big red eyes, sharp teeth, and deadly claws. Totally looks like a demon from hell. The description matched that of one he received from the Flash. Another had attacked Central City and was taken down by Flash. He had informed Batman of this otherworldly creature's presence since he was expecting an invasion. The creature was sent to Star Labs for analysis, but nothing of note yet. The demon moved, its claws outstretched to tear Batman to ribbons. Clank. A birdarang lodged itself on the demon's head. Beeping. BOM Chapter 44. 44. Metallo's Return. It was silent. It was dark. It was comfort. It was tranquil. It felt like a good long sleep. One that you hadn't experienced in years. A deep slumber after decades of nightmares. A feeling of lethargy, like a thick fog drowning your senses. Tiredness in the morning drew, casting a subtle veil over the waking consciousness. A sensation as if emerging from a long dive in the ocean. A subtle pressure lifting off your skin. It would have been a thrilling experience for an insomniac, but not for Metallo. He was a cyborg, and cyborgs don't sleep. His eyes flicked to life, a green hue illuminating the darkness. He scanned his surroundings, but the light was swallowed by the darkness a few feet away from him. He knew from his posture that he was standing upright. He tried to move his head, but it was stuck. He attempted to move his hands to check his neck, but they stayed still. He tried to command his system, yet nothing worked. He was imprisoned in his own body. Embers of fear lit in the cyborg's mind. He couldn't die yet. Superman was alive. He can't and wouldn't die without killing him. Yes, he will not die without killing him. There was even another yes, that girl. Slowly, Metallo recalled his fight with Kara. He had ambushed her at the dock and got a clear hit on her with his kryptonite blaster. Then they fought more, and he finally drowned her. Then, he couldn't remember. He couldn't remember how the rest of the fight progressed, but he knew he was defeated. With his careful analysis, he could only deduce Superman's timely intervention. He, Metallo, was defeated again. You are finally awake. A calm voice alerted Metallo to another presence. He scanned the darkness around him, instantly locking onto another emission of light. A screen on what looked like a helmet lit up with neon light, taking the shape of an emoticon. Took you long enough. The voice approached, its tone bionic, but it stayed hidden in the darkness. The figure was shorter than his towering frame. Metallo was a giant standing at the height of 8 feet, dwarfing anyone who stood next to him. I thought you would not wake up, the figure muttered as he walked around Metallo, checking his frame. It would have been a waste if you were useless. Who are you? Metallo broke his silence, his voice more metallic than bio. The guy made a full circle around and stopped before Metallo. Metallo could hear a slight rustle of fabric, confirming that the man before him was wearing a suit. He was analyzing his opponent even as he stood still. Me. The guy pointed at himself, his hand illuminating with a golden glow. I am Neon, the guy you work for now. Neon spread his hand, his suit lighting up with golden patterns running all over it. The golden glow illuminated the surroundings, revealing nothing but darkness. I work for no one, Metallo replied with a bite. Neon pocketed his hand and said with a cheeky grin, You are now. His suit's cuffs lit up with neon gold, running up his arm. Neon removed his hands from his pocket and lifted them up, clearly imitated by Metallo's body, without his control. After all, I am in control, Neon said as he dropped back. A force field extended from his suit, molding into a throne for him to sit. So, wanna talk? He smirked. What have you done to me? Metallo questioned, while trying to regain control over his body. Neon shifted in his throne, trying to find a comfortable position. He finally just slacked on the throne, his fist supporting his head. He looked at Metallo's appearance, a ghostly skull of a face with bright green orbs for eyes, giving an eerie feeling to anyone who gazed at him. His edgy metallic knight armor covered his whole body, making him more intimidating. Standing like a giant carrying a great sword, Neon's design was that of an undead knight who climbed out of hell to hunt you down in an unending pursuit. A full system upgrade and major body modifications, Neon answered nonchalantly, tapping a projected screen on his wrist. He then commanded the changes to be known to Metallo. The information on the modification flooded Metallo's mind, stunning him silent for a moment. His whole body was altered to something more powerful, more potent than his old body. Metallo's eyes lit up more brightly as he focused on Neon again, his interest in this fellow increasing, but his wariness was also piqued. Seeing Metallo silent, Neon tilted his head, a sad expression taking his visor. Do you not like my makeover? Metallo remained silent seeing the emoticon. He knew that guy was not sad from his voice. He was just messing around. But it's of the essence. You look scary, Neon stated, returning to his lazy position. But I am here to offer you a chance, Metallo. I could have just erased your consciousness and installed another. Metallo felt chills in his system at the statement. Erasing his consciousness meant his death, and he was not ready to die. What do you need? Metallo asked, finally relenting. You do the job I give you without any slip-ups, Neon stated. You can do whatever you want after that. If I refuse? Metallo questioned. You already know the answer, Neon rose up with a smile. I replace you with someone capable. Okay, I will work with you, Metallo agreed. He didn't have any other choice. At his answer, the giant knelt, his head held down. Neon made a smiley face and patted Metallo's metallic form. Metallo clearly understood the show of control. If he accepted now and tried to go back later, he would still be under control like a chained dog. Do well, Neon stated. Metallo, out of control, could only grit his teeth and accept his fate. I shall comply. Neat. Neon turned his back to Metallo. Keep yourself hidden here until I give you your order. He then proceeded to walk away from Metallo, slowly disappearing into the darkness. His glow vanished, swallowed by the darkness. Metallo stayed in the kneeling position for an unknown time before he gained back his control. Metallo stood up, his gaze lingering in the direction Zion vanished. His visuals were still limited, unable to look into the darkness. As he stood still in contemplation, a mechanical voice rang in his mind. System initiated. 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, 99%, 100%. Complete. It was as if a fog was lifted in Metallo's mind. Everything became visible to him, and the darkness surrounding him disappeared as his eyes peered through the veil. He was in a building with many craters covered in nets. From the dust accumulated, it hadn't been used in months. Metallo checked his system. The feedback provided in-depth details about his body and the alterations made. Metallo lifted his hands and saw the spiky gauntlet adorning his arm. He liked the redesign. It reflected his pursuit to bring death to Superman. Metallo reached behind and gripped the hilt of his kryptonite slayer, a giant sword with a kryptonite edge. He could feel its strength as if it were alive. Yes, he felt the sword was alive. He didn't know if it was due to his upgraded program or something else. He hadn't fully dealt with the fact that he was now a slave to someone, but, as long as I get the power to kill Superman, Metallo muttered as he sheathed his sword on his back. Now he wait. And it didn't take long for Metallo to receive his orders. In the ecstasy of freedom, Metallo blew up his confines. He used his propulsion system to take to the skies, his dark green metallic coat giving him cover in the night sky. Metallo's eyes glowed with a greenish hue as the city of Metropolis became dissected into grids, revealing everything and everyone present. The details of his mission flashed in his mind, a clear image of his prey. A cyborg but more primitive and bestial, with little to no intelligence. Metallo felt disgusted at the creature. It was an abomination. In minutes, he got a ping on the creature. His system tracked the sighting and deduced its probable path and hiding spot. The boosters on Metallo increased in power, giving a burst boost to his flight. It took less than a minute for Metallo to arrive at the location. He stopped his boosters and plunged into the building, breaking through many concrete walls. Metallo's body felt no wall. It just broke through them like they were wet paper. The sound of concrete shattering filled the empty car park. Metallo broke the final wall and stuck the superhero landing. In the darkness of the underground, dust of broken concrete filled the vision, obstructing the perpetrator of destruction. A soft light fluttered through the broken opening, illuminating the darkness dimly. Pluck, pluck, pluck. Zing. In the darkness, the sound of concrete chunks falling filled the empty floor. A dark silhouette rose from the rubble, ghastly green eyes ignited. The green flames wandered, trying to find its prey. The dark giant moved its hands, metals clanking against each other, and grabbed the hilt of its giant sword. The floor was silent, proving no presence of living. Metallo scanned the floor, darkness clear as light. He took a step forward, concrete shattering under his weight. He gripped his sword, and it responded with a hum, illuminating the floor in a greenish hue. Metallo took another step forward, his stance spread. Not going to come, he muttered in a chilly voice. His voice echoed. He knew his prey was here, hunting him. Fine, Metallo muttered as he made a swift turn and slashed with his sword at the ceiling. The kryptonite slayer revealed the hidden creature as it removed its shoulder from its body and continued to slice through the 10-inch concrete. The creature reacted to the slash by jumping back into the darkness, but clearly not in time. Metallo locked eyes with the creature, its severed wound closing. The creature growled, angered. Its metallic body transformed, forming pincers from its back. Its chest lit up with power, and it roared in a screeching cry. Metallo brought his sword forward. He had never used a sword as his primary weapon, but the new system had programmed for battle mode with many different fighting styles, allowing him to use his power efficiently. Screech! The creature launched, ready to tear Metallo to ribbons. Its pincers extended to skewer Metallo. But Metallo remained calm. He moved his sword with a clear path. A green arc formed in the air, a wave of power extending from the sword. The creature, sensing danger, dodged to its left. Blood spurted. A clean cut from the right shoulder to its pelvis, removing half of its body. The dissected body slid to the floor, with a chilling splash. Metallo didn't wait. He moved, closing the distance between himself and the demon. He lifted his sword high, performing a perfect slash, removing the upper body from the lower. The demon had no way to block the blurring green. Its upper torso slid from its legs, dead. Metallo stabbed its head, a final blow to kill it. The sword moved uninterrupted. Metallo drew his sword and shook it off of blood. He attached it to his back and ripped the chest of the demon with his own hands, removing a box hidden from its insides. "It's the one," Metallo muttered. "Yes. A confirmation. What do I do with it?" Metallo asked for his next orders. "Take the cube to this location and wait." Metallo grunted in agreement. "And destroy the body." Metallo used his energy blaster and melted the body. Chapter 45. 45, Ending. Mali Karandra. The assault on Martian's capital city moved past its critical point. The Mechmorphs had more advantage in this war than Martians. Mechmorphs outnumbered and outgunned the Martian race. They were virtually immortals in their domain. Yet, the Martians fought valiantly without breaking. They showed their mettle by never relenting, which bought them enough time for the Earth's mightiest to intervene and change the tides of war. Manhunter squashed the Mechmorphs with his unparalleled psychic field. Wonder Woman sliced and cleaved the Mechmorphs, and Superman ripped them apart with his bare hands while using heat vision to render the Mechmorphs useless. With the trio's intervention in battle, the pressure on the Martians reduced more than half, allowing them to take a breather. The Martians, with the shift of tides, fought more aggressively, but they were of no consequence to the Mechmorphs. Only the elite of them could even approach them, or even try to hurt them. Yet, the trio kept the Mechmorphs at bay until the backup unit arrived from other Martian cities. The increased amount to Martians succeeded in stalling the Mechmorphs until the Supers arrived to their sides. The battle continued for a while with Superman, Wonder Woman, and Manhunter splitting them among the battlefields. And after a long and draining battle, they managed to make the Mechmorphs retreat. The Mechmorphs retreated into the holes they came from. The trio didn't follow the Mechmorphs into the tunnels, lest they fall into a trap. The Martians rejoiced, and a hymn of cheer reverberated through Martian colony. The Martians forgot their differences and cheered with each other. The civilians that were hiding walked out with relief. But the joy didn't last long. The Martians saw the flying supers and they noticed their appearance. They were humans, even if they weren't biologically the same. The hate in their heart was ignited. After all, the one who caused this was also human. "You have come again. You Earthers have come to deceive us again? You not only ruin your home but you have come for ours. Get lost. Leave our home. Leave. Leave. Leave." The Martians roared in anger and hate. They didn't want any more relation with these humans. The massive psychic chant caused Superman and Wonder Woman to grit their head in pain. After all, someone of not your kind thinks differently. Manhunter promptly interfered with attack and created a psychic shield to protect from further assault. Martians. Manhunter appeared in the psychic cloud. The Martians felt a powerful mind appear in the mind cloud. It was getting repetitive. They could feel his psyche dominion over the cloud. It was heavy, but soft. John Johns only wanted their attention. "Martians, I know that you are distraught due to the war. But I am one of you, I have fought by you, and you know me." John brought the attention to himself and presented his argument. "These two are heroes of Earth. They have saved many lives and they have come to our aid. How can we be sure that they are on our side? It was one of them who started this war. We can't trust them. But you can trust me," Martian argued. "I am here to stop this war and so are they." "We trust you, John." Another commanding presence invaded the cloud. "Majesty." John bowed in a show of respect. "John Johns, I would have liked to have met again in a peaceful setting," King Jack said as he turned to his people. "You all know Johns and his achievements. He is the strongest of us. He ended the last war, so will this one." The crowd remained silent at the king's words. "Come to the palace, we got much to discuss. Bring your friends with you." The king left with those words. Jem was rejected and was confined in his room for an indefinite time. Syra looked at Jem as he floated restlessly, his mind wandering about. She could tell that he was dejected about his father confining him. She was confined with him as to keep them both here and not give Jem a reason to run around. It was his mother's idea, which was opposed by his father. "Jem, you should stop worrying." Syra stopped Jem. "Nothing is going to happen by worrying. The council know what they are doing. They will win this war. Even the war hero John Johns is here, with Superman." "You don't understand, Syra. Zion is not some random warmonger. He is more powerful than anyone I have know. I saw him in action." "I understand, Jem." Syra pulled Jem to sit down. "But we can't do anything when the elders want us to stay put." "I got to go, Syra. I got to join the fight." Jem stood up, his emotions running amok. "If not, how can I wash my shame? How can I earn back my self-respect?" Syra understood Jem's feeling. After all, they were connected on a deeper bond. She knew how much Jem tormented himself about letting his people down, his family and even himself. "You are not a coward, Jem." Syra pulled Jem closer. "There was nothing you could have done in the situation and you brought the news of war for the council, to prepare and not be blindsided. If you hadn't, the Martians wouldn't have know what hit them." Syra made a sounding argument. If Jem didn't come in form, they wouldn't have known what hit them until later. But the situation was different. Syra, I didn't retreat. I was let go because I was of no consequence, Jem explained. I was too weak to even threaten him. But what can we even do? In this scale of war, our intervention wouldn't make a shift, Syra. It doesn't matter. I have to do something. I can do something. Jem got a flash of inspiration. I can join the assault team by shifting. Jem, it's dangerous. And you will be found instantly by the general. Syra was getting worried for Jem. If he really wanted to do this, she would help him and assist him by being there with him. Palace Hall. The council had gathered with all their generals. They had all regathered to discuss the battle plan to move forward in war. There were also many Martians present in the room. They were all armed to the teeth. These Martians were the elites gathered for the assault team who will attack Zion in his base. These Martians were the best of the best remaining Martians who survived. They will assist you in this mission, King Jack stated as he pointed at the Martians armed to the teeth with weapons. We have been waiting to give you your bioship, but the war had delayed things. King Jax, it's fine, your majesty, John Johns replied humbly. Take them with you and bring an end to this war, King Jax commanded, followed by the collective salute of the Martians. The Martian spirit were all-time high and they were ready to fight to the death to end this war and protect their people. They were resolute in their decisions. John gave a final bow to the king before taking flight for the final battle of the war. There was not dramaticness in the whole charade, but tension was palpable in the air. The Martians collectively kept their hopes on the assault team. This was their final chance at winning this war. We should do this swift, Wonder Woman commented. The trio was flying at the forefront of the assault team. 6 bioships flew at their rear, guarding them. They have yet to enter the enemy territory, so they were blatant in their approach. Let me talk to him first, Superman interjected. Manhunter nodded. They should try to negotiate first, and try to solve the problem first. But he doubted the Martians would be patient enough to converse. After all, they have lost many in battle, disintegrated into cubes. We are approaching enemy border, go stealth. Manhunter took command of the operation. While the trio remains the same, the assault team went camo as they became transparent to the eyes. This was an advanced stealth that even heat vision wouldn't pick them up, letting most kind of signal pass through them. The bioships also entered the camouflage state to not alert the enemies. If the enemy knew they were coming, they would be surrounded and attack. The assault team could handle that much firepower. Boom bam boom. When will these stop coming? Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, shouted as he formed a shield to block another energy blast. He had rushed into the enemy lines, trusting in his capabilities. When he flew in, there was much of anything except the dark ground. He scanned the materials found on the planet, but the ring came up with nothing. The material was unknown. He then continued to venture further, and he met with retaliations. 10 of mechmorphs morphed out of the ground, pointing their blasters at him in silence. Hal, being who he is, retaliated by blasting them with his ring's power. Mechmorphs attacked, fired back, ready to cube the man in green spandex. This continued and escalated to the point Green Lantern was surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands of mechmorphs. They kept blasting at him with their dehydration blaster, and Green Lantern used his energy constructs to defend himself. This is getting annoying. Green Lantern gritted his teeth in annoyance. Green Lantern created a massive bat and swept at the mechmorphs, throwing them off like golf balls. Mechmorphs, immortals in their domain, kept popping back to attack him. They kept pushing Green Lantern towards the center. Hal Jordan in his pride wouldn't run away from the fight. He could have escaped the siege by flying up. Mechmorphs can't fly. Not yet. Like this, the team was in a standstill. The mechmorphs' blasters could break Green Lantern's shield, while Green Lantern couldn't put an end to the mechmorphs. The super trio flying at the forefront of the attack halted at the skies. They were watching as Green Lantern battled thousands of mechmorphs slowly pushing forward into the enemy territory. Green Lantern was like a bulb surrounded by moths. Even the war-worn Martians felt chills at the number of mechmorphs Green Lantern was facing. Should we help? Wonder Woman asked. I don't know. Superman was skeptical of helping Green Lantern. He was not exactly going to abandon Green Lantern, but he was still reluctant about helping Green Lantern. I think we should help, Manhunter stated. His shield is able to stop those energy blasts. Manhunter pointed at Green Lantern covered in a green ball protecting him from the energy blasts. So we help him? Wonder Woman asked as she brought her shield. Yes, Manhunter answered. Okay, Superman agreed. The trio dived from the sky, leaving the hidden Martian troop. Chapter 46. 46. Ending War Number 2. War is hell, a raging flame. Innocent hearts caught in its deadly game. Soldiers march with no true cause. Fighting wars. Breaking natural laws. Why do we fight? Why do we bleed? Is it worth the pain, the suffering we heed? For a cause that's fueled by greed. In this cycle of war, what do we need? Citizens caught in the crossfire's wrath. Left to rebuild on the war's bloodied path. Why should they suffer? Why should they pay? In the chaos of war, does anyone sway? Why do we fight? Why do we bleed? Is it worth the pain, the suffering we heed? For a cause that's fueled by greed. In this cycle of war, what do we need? Trapped in violence and hate, we hold on to hope. It's not too late. One day, peace will reign, we'll repair. From the chains of war, we'll break free and dare. Why do we fight? Why do we bleed? Is it worth the pain, the suffering we heed? For a cause that's fueled by greed. In this cycle of war, what do we need? Credited to ChatGPT. A heavy music filled the Crystal City. The very air distorted, shaking those who heard it to the core. The electric guitar caused static in the air. Sparks flew across the floor. The room lit up like a disco ball, lighting in a different color. The giant crystal on top of the high tower was a beacon for stars, guiding them to their destination. Zion, wearing his costume, struck the strings with force. The meticulously made strings played notes that humans have never heard. The music was a symphony of emotions and chaos, one that struck the hearts of the listeners. The listeners resonated with the songs. Those of the war-torn country were more than emotional. They were enraged. They had gone through so much. What have they done to deserve this? They were just ants caught in the middle of an elephant's fight. Zion finished his musical with a final stroke, sending shivers to those who heard. He had been playing for the past hour. He had crafted an electric guitar while he was bored, using all the advanced knowledge to make a guitar so perfect that physicists would go insane. Zion then turned to the controls. A hologram floated about, showing his live recording. He was wearing a pitch-black tuxedo with a gold shirt, with a crystalline electric guitar in his hand. He was also wearing his helmet. Zion was not just playing the music for himself, but for the whole of Earth. With his help, every electronic device was playing his song. Only his song. In short, all of Earth's communication was hacked and was under his control. And for the last hour, they were only listening to him. This had already made humans go bombastic as they tried to search for the hacker, but couldn't. Not only that, they couldn't even communicate with each other. So, they were all like stranded survivors. Of course, there was a way of communication left. Hello viewers, did you like my song? Zion questioned. He was live streaming while also taking control of Earth. When the stream started, people were terror-stricken as their devices were taken over and only showed his stream. They could only watch the stream. I hope you did, Zion muttered as he sat back at his chair, his visor displaying an enigmatic smile. This was a one-way communication. I know that all of you are confused, Zion muttered. How did I take over your devices? Why can't you close the program? Why am I even here? Don't worry, I am here to answer. Zion waved his hand, invoking a holographic control panel. He was now taking command of the stream. I am Neon from Mars. Nice to meet you, civilians of Earth. Yes, from Mars, your sister planet. Yes, it's not a dead planet. And yes, there are aliens. I am one too, in a sense. But what I am here for now is to inform you of something of most significance. Due to the atrocities humans have caused in the last few decades, I have decided to take control, on the fact that humans are too idiotic to handle themselves. Do not worry, I am not going to be a dictator and your normal lives won't be affected by any means. I dare say that your lives would be improved. Think of this as a change in management. Yes, management. Again, none of you who choose not to fight this change will be harmed in any way. All you got to do is stay home and watch the show. I hope none of you intervene as I do plan on a bit of pest control. As for the government, what are you going to do? I literally have control over everything. I have your nukes, I have your missiles, I have your jets, I have your boats, I have your cars. What are you going to fight with? Bicycles? You know what? I would love to see you guys fight on bicycles. For those who think that they could do evil because the network is down, think twice. The network is not down, just under different management and a tougher one. So I hope you mind your own business while the cleaning happens. And for the metas, you who had superpowers, don't intervene. Your whole system is rigged and corrupted. I am just cleaning. So, viewers, enjoy the fireworks. Don't miss it. The stream ended. Earth collectively had a moment of silence. The government still didn't have any mode of communication with their military, nor did the police force have communication with their respective teams. They could communicate and could only fend for themselves. But they had received orders, from military to the constable, had all received orders to evacuate the civilians and take them to safety. The cities were about to become a war zone and the civilians need to be removed to lessen the casualties. The masses reacted differently to the new age. Some panicked, some angry, some didn't care, while some hoped. Hoped for a better future. Zion looked at the stars. They were similar to Earth's sky, yet different. He knew he had started another war with another species with his declaration. Those hidden in the dark would emerge to fight him. But what can they do? He wasn't planning on giving them a chance in the first place. He was going to crush them in a single move, leaving no chance to retaliate. After all, those who can combat his technology had yet to be born. Only the metahumans would retaliate, but they would be of help when a literal army invades. If his play was successful, he should be able to build a better planet, a better place for both metahumans and humans. He will end crime and stop the cycle of hate. Time to roll, Zion said as he walked to the balcony of the high tower. He could see the vast horizon, the purple sky meeting the black land. Due to slight gravitational differences, 1.5 g. It was the violet light that scattered. Zion could see it, the heroes who would save this planet. Green Lantern was carrying them in his jet made of light, rendering the dehydration gun useless. It was good. They shouldn't be defeated yet. They have a role to play and they should play it right. Zion flew out of his tower, leaving his throne empty. He should greet the guests. Zion came to a stop in the skies above the Crystal City. The jet made of light approached fast and came to a halt before them. Green Lanterns morphed the jet around them to a sphere, lest they were attacked, unsuspected. The heroes looked at Zion intently, each displaying different emotions. Zion, Superman called. Hi Superman, what brings you here, a long distance away from home? Zion asked. Gotham. Batman hung on the guardrails, flung by the explosion. Need a hand? An adolescent voice asked. Batman looked up. He met the eyes of his protege. He took the hand and climbed up from the guardrails. What are you doing here? He inquired. Heard you needed help? Robin stated as he looked down the building. The explosion had pushed the creature down the building, but it was not present in the alley. It had survived and immediately fled from the scene. Robin turned to his mentor. What was it? Batman turned to his wrist computer. That's what I am trying to find. Then we need to track him down in stealth, Robin said and pulled his cloak on him, vanishing from sight. Batman's eyes perked up. Robin hadn't used a technique to vanish. He had turned invisible where he stood. He had already noticed the changes in Robin's dress, but he hadn't questioned since they had a bigger problem. Gift from your friend, sir, Alfred answered. Zion, Batman muttered under his breath. He had sent quite a few gifts. I can't say I hate them. What should I do with yours, sir? I will come check later, Batman answered. I would suggest changing into better gears, Bats, Zai commented. Batman ignored Zai and called his protege. Robin. Here, Robin appeared behind Batman, trying to surprise him, but completely failing. Batman just gave his a hard look, scrutinizing Robin's new suit. This suit was a combination of his and Robin's uniforms. The suit was not bulky but had armor plates like his bat suit. Instead of a bat in his chest, Robin had a bird, its wings connecting to his shoulder. His cape was segmented like a bird's wings. He still wore a domino mask. Let's move, Batman stated before jumping down and using his cape to glide down. Robin followed his mentor, replicating Batman's descent. Batman removed the sewer cover and jumped down, which was followed by Robin. Robin didn't show any discomfort of entering the sewers. After all, they had been fighting some crocodiles here. What's with the suit? Batman finally asked. Robin was a bit nervous about wearing the suit without permission. Well, Zion informed that you might need help. I was about to put my suit, but Alfred brought this and asked me to wear this. Can you only camouflage? Batman questioned. Robin perked up, his nervousness lessening. No, I got increased strength and speed, an inbuilt computer for analysis, anti-gravity boots, a minor force field generator, a wrist blade, an inbuilt grappling gun. The cloak is bulletproof and can be used to fly, night vision, thermal vision, radar, and some others. Batman came to a halt and lifted his hand in a fist. Robin instantly understood the gesture, halting his step and staying silent. Batman, leaning on the wall, looked around the corner. He saw the creature melting the wall and inject a cube into it. That's the stuff, Zai commented. Batman wanted to question but stopped himself. He needed to take down the creature first. He turned to his protege. He didn't need to convey his intent in words. Robin nodded back, turning invisible and crossing to the other side silently. Batman pulled all his explosive batarangs and nodded to where Robin was. He jumped out of hiding and threw the batarangs at the creature. Robin didn't lag behind and used his wrist launcher, something he didn't have before. The batarangs and mini-missile collided with the creature in an exploding firework and smoke. The smoke filled the confines, covering all vision. The creature is not down. It's going to explode. Robin's panicked voice came through the comms before Batman felt a force collide with him. For the dark side. Bum. The explosion shook the whole system, raining rocks and boulders into the murky waters. The smoke filled the tunnels even more, rendering everything invisible. One could not see clearly. Broom. A slight vibration halted the expanding smoke before it dissolved the smog away. The sight wind blast was attuned to a frequency that made the smoke particles sink. Dark side. Robin questioned as he deactivated the force field. It was a war cry, Batman answered and walked to the center of the explosion. He saw the half-submerged metallic cube on the wall, unaffected by the explosion. He tried to pull the cube from the wall, but it was stuck. What is it? Robin asked as he helped pull the cube. The cube easily dislodged from the wall with Robin's increased strength. It's a mother box, Zai answered. Explain. Batman ordered. Get to this location. Robin's wrist computer lit up, projecting a GPS signal to a location in Metropolis. Chapter 47. 47-1 versus 4. Let me skip some scenes due to the fact that Green Lantern didn't care for much talking and punched Zion using a giant hard light fist. Things shouldn't have escalated to this point. They should have talked this out. But Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, was never the type to listen to another. He didn't really like much of talking in any manner. He very much liked to guns blazing with missiles and jets. So the moment he was clear Zion was not going to do things the easy way, that was after he greeted everyone else before him, he took his shot. He was planning to take Zion out of the game before any further conversations. He willed in his power ring constructed, and swung at Zion the massive fist. Zion, who was still in his Martian transformation, watched the fist uninterested. He moved nothing but his mind. The hard light stopped a feet before him and shattered. He shifted his gaze to the heroes present, locking eyes with every single one of them. Uncivilized, he worded, his form shifting. His suit vanished, morphing into a tight-fit dress similar to Martian Manhunter, but fully black. His form lost its human form and took the shape of a Martian. His head took a diamond shape, his waist thinned, his height increased, his thick clawed hands, and his sharp teeth were really nightmarish. His restrained mind fully spread their wings, plunging them into a psychic pressure that creaked their psychological defenses. But I like it, Morph said with an eerie smile that sends chills. Let's brawl. Morph vanished and appeared next to Green Lantern. A punch weighing tons connected with Green Lantern's face, shattering his suit's defense. Green Lantern was knocked out of combat in a single move. He would have died if not for the ring's defense. Morph caught the Green Lantern with his telekinesis, henceforth TK. He floated next to him and woke up his mind from unconsciousness. Morph looked at Green Lantern's confused minds, his telepathy filling his mind, and uttered a single word that shook his psyche. Weak. He then committed Green Lantern out of Mars. He wasn't going to hold back. This fight better be a good warm-up. He turned to the trio. His eyes met the guarded gaze of the trio. Manhunter's face was especially hardened as he could feel the strength of mind. If he was the strongest Martian ever born, the one before him was level above him in raw power. But there was always a difference. Morph was untrained, not in full control or as capable of manipulation of his telepathic powers. Morph's mind was like an ocean that gathered uncontrolled tides, but he couldn't translate it into finesse. He was just forcing his psychic pressure on them. Let's be careful, he is strong, Manhunter stated. All the better, Wonder Woman replied. Zion, we don't need to do this, Superman said, but he was already ready to fight. Morph tilted his head, feigning a confused expression before smiling and blurring from his position. This time Trio was ready. With their increased agility, they caught the blur. Wonder Woman brought the shield before her, blocking the punch. The shield buzzed in pain, but it withstood the power, but pushed Diana back 100 meters. Morph didn't follow, but shifted his density and phased through Superman's punch. Martians can turn intangible, Martian stated before rushing Morph. They collided. Morph's grinned. He could feel Manhunter's strength. This man was trained, an expert, in controlling his Martian's powers. Morph formed another pair of arms and punched Martians in the face. Manhunter took the hit, unflinchingly. He copied and morphed a pair of arms and delivered a double uppercut. Morph flinched, his head swung back. Manhunter's strength was 100 times a normal Martian's. Morph rolled with the punch, morphed his body and kicked Manhunter away, then immediately density shifted, avoiding a sword slicing his head. He rolled mid-air and slammed the warrioress to the side. He then grabbed her with his TK and molded his TK into a hand and slapped Wonder Woman away. He then blasted his Martian vision, colliding with Superman's heat vision. Moved away and avoided another Martian death ray. He weaved though the two death ray targeting him and pulled the princess to him, ready to use her as meat shield. Wonder Woman forgo her shield and pulled her lasso. She threw the lasso at Morph, ready to catch him. Morph shifted his body, slipping through the gaps and caught them with his hand and pulled. The force was enough to lift Diana and accelerate Morph. He pulled close and tackled Wonder Woman. Why are you doing this? She questioned out of breath. Morph, still holding the lasso of truth, answered. Fun. He didn't wait and caught her by the neck and threw her at Superman. Superman stopped to catch Wonder Woman. Are you okay? Superman asked. I am okay. We need to go serious if we want to put an end to this, Wonder Woman stated as she moved from Superman. Morph, standing on the dark floor, lifted his hand and gestured them to come. Manhunter arrived next to Superman and Wonder Woman. He spoke in their minds. He has yet to use his telepathic powers. I will cast a defense on your minds, just in case. The duo didn't mind as they need to fight another psychic, and Superman never had the best of experience with them. What's the plan? Martian Manhunter had already established a psychic link in them. We rush him, Wonder Woman answered. The trio turned to Morph, who was just smiling at them. Seeing that they were ready, he jumped up, his stature expanding to a muscular form. He was planning on pummeling the trio. He forced his TK to cover his body like an armor, concentrating the TK on his hand, and he punched out, blasting a collapsing force on the trio. Manhunter warned and the trio dodged the invisible attack. Wonder Woman arced and attacked with her lasso. Superman increased his speed and blitzed to Morph's. Manhunter forced Morph's armor to creak. Morph shook the TK, shifted fluid, avoiding the lasso and the superpowered punch. He wasn't planning on taking that punch head-on. Wonder Woman flicked her hand, sending the lasso at Morph. Morph in his fluid form floated away, escaping with the wind. Superman gave chase. Manhunter followed. Morph halted and changed his direction to attack Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman reacted instantly and spun the lasso, circling Morph. Triple integral. She pulled, tightening the loop tightened. But Morph's TK armor gave him enough space to slip past in the nick of time, yet not enough to avoid the grasp of Martian Manhunter. Manhunter morphed his body to a similar density to hold down Morph, and Superman landed a solid punch. Boom. Morph collided with the ground, causing it to rippled. Morph wasn't knocked out by the punch, he retaliated, using the rippled as a springboard to launch at the trio. He caught with the Superman and broke through Martian's TK barrier. Manhunter again intervened and caught Morph's fist, just enough for Superman to knock Morph in Wonder Woman's directions. Wonder Woman, waiting for her chance, lifted her hand and slammed her wristbands together, creating a powerful explosion that hit Morph black point range. Morph felt his head spin as he fell from the sky, and felt a rope wrap around him. He had enough battle response to know he would be done if the lasso of truth got a hold on him. He morphed and tried to slip away, but Manhunter quickly caught him. They both rolled through the air, each striking the other with all their strength. Morph was at a lose at physical strength, but he compassionate with TK. They both kept falling, failing to control their flight, or not caring at all. They punched, clawed, pecked, burned and blasted each other, their bodies an amalgamation of different creatures. Superman couldn't intervene as the two Martians were shifting as they fight, coiling like two snakes on the deathmatch. Manhunter was relentless. He wanted to beat Morph black and blue, a bit of shell shock affecting him. Wonder Woman and Superman stayed near to help. What are you guys standing around for? Green Lantern returned, in his hand a massive blaster, and shot missiles at Manhunter and Morphs. He was thrown into orbit and took control of his mental shock. As a Green Lantern, his willpower was strong enough to ignite his anger and stabilize his mind. The ring did the heavy lifting as it channeled its light through him. Boom, boom, The missiles tracked and collided with Manhunter and Morph, throwing them in different directions. He didn't care much for Manhunter. His was angry and wasn't technically right in the mind. The ring worked because his psyche wasn't shattered, instead shaken. Green Lantern still had the will to fight, and all long as he had will, he would fight. Morph rolled on the ground, smoke rising from his body. He wiped his mouth of blood from Martian Manhunter's punches and looked up, meeting Green Lantern's gaze. Green Lantern had a cocky smile. "Do you still think I am weak?" "I don't, you are," Morph replied. The smile on Green Lantern's face replaced with fury, and the ring glowed bright. "I will show you." Many constructs formed in the sky, illuminating the night sky in emerald light. Morph just looked at Green Lantern as hundreds of mission guns, missiles and cannons pointed at him. He knew he could block them. Green Lantern wasn't exactly focused enough to strengthen each. Morph lifted his and focused his TK. Green Lantern pulled the trigger. Green rained down hellfire. The ground was scorched, burned and cratered. Hundred upon hundreds of bullets flew out with no mercy. The whole place was filled with gun smoke. Green Lantern didn't care and shot down. Superman watching this was ready to interfere, but he felt a hand on his shoulder stopping him. Martian Manhunter pointed at the ground where smoke covered every inch. "He is still standing." Morph was using his TK to shield himself. The dome was enough to withstand Lantern's power. Green Lantern wasn't the best tool in the shelf to deal with him, because he knew how to affect his powers. He morphed skin to a different color. He turned from white to full yellow. The impurity was still present in the power battery, yet to be removed. Morph lowered his posture while pushing his TK up. The floor sank in pure force as his leg muscles bulged, gathering so much force add with his TK. He jumped, releasing all the force in a single point, causing ripples to spread across the whole planet. Boom. Morph blurred into a phantom, breaking through the barrage of bullets. The light constructs couldn't stop or hurt him, and his attack was way faster for Green Lantern to react. He arrived, his gaze meeting Green Lantern's, shocking him. He used his power ring to blast Morph away as final effort. But to his surprise, his energy blast didn't work, nor did it slow down his opponent. Morph pulled back, his hands bulging. Morph was concentrating his power on his fist, and this punch will remind Green Lantern of his dead relatives. Maybe even send him to have a vacation with them. He punched out, causing a shockwave in the air, and it collided. Boom. Time out, Zion. Superman's voice came from the other end, holding Zion's hand in place. This time, he didn't hold back and punched. In pure physical strength and speed, Morph wasn't a match to DC's plot armor. Superman was too strong for anyone to actually beat him, and the only reason he was letting Zion have it was due to the assurance of Manhunter. Manhunter knew the Zion in his Martian form could survive this punch with his regeneration. He knew about Zion abilities. A shockwave spread for miles as the punch connected with Morph's chest. The sheer force tore his body, caving his upper torso. Blood flowed out his mouth as his body returned to his original Martian physic. Superman scrunched his eyebrows in guilt. He couldn't see the kid he had known in this state. Manhunter approached Superman and assured him by point Morph's hyper-regeneration activating. In a matter of second, the blood dried and muscles moved to mend his body together. Boss transformation begun. Game difficulty, Nightmare. Task, survive for the next 5 minutes. Meet your ancestor Martian. Suggestions. I am in need to ideas. If you were the Emperor of Earth and you have the power, the authority to do anything, how would you improve this planet? How would you improve a normal civilian's life? How would you deal with terrorists? What of those illuminates that are hidden in the dark? What is your move? Chapter 48. 48. Arrival. The night was still young, yet much had already transpired. The sky was cloaked in darkness, the clouds devoid of any glimmering light, while a thick, grey fog gathered ominously, shrouding the world below. The stars bore silent witness to the events unfolding, as if testifying to humanity's enduring memory. For this was no ordinary day. It marked the beginning of a revolution, a power struggle that far surpassed any previous conflicts. It was the day when mortals dared to challenge the authority of gods, igniting a great war that would echo through the annals of history. This pivotal moment would never fade from memory, serving as the harbinger of what was yet to come. In the hidden path, hidden in the veil of shadows, a beast made of metal rode towards its destination. Its passengers sat in silence of the impending collision of worlds. Many lights blinked in silence, static of noise in the backdrop. Batman kept his gaze to the destination, but his mind wandered about the cube in his partner's hands. The cube was something that Earth's tech could not uncover. I haven't talked much of the device, only a warning of its powers. Robin sat in his seat, his hands clenching the cube in his hand, an uncomfortable feeling brew in his stomach. The silence amplified his heartbeat, nervous sweat covering his back. The coldness of his new suit gave little comfort in the impending storm. The Batmobile took the hidden tunnel toward their cave, a place called home that gave peace. Alfred. Batman greeted his venerable butler as he got out of his Batmobile, the dim light of the Batcave casting its shadow over his features. "Welcome back, sir," Alfred greeted with a bow. "I presume that you want to open your gift early for this Christmas." "It might be Halloween tonight, Alfred," Robin commented. "You seem to like your gift, Master Dick," Alfred commented as he looked at Robin's new suit. He liked the new suit very well. Now he doesn't have to worry that his grandson being mistaken as a clown who escaped from a circus. He was thankful for Zion's gift. His one was impeccable and suited him very well. "Take this to analyze," Batman stated as he handed the mother box to Alfred. Alfred looked at the presumably a metal cube and took it. He would get his answer after he put it on an analyzer. "Let me lead you to your gifts," Alfred said and led the two to their prep table, where the preparation are made. The duo followed Alfred's lead, their footsteps echoing softly against the cool stone floor of the Batcave as they entered the preparation room. The air crackled with an electric tension, each corner of the expansive chamber filled with an array of gadgets and tools meticulously organized for their nocturnal endeavors. "Here, sir." Alfred pointed at the suitcase kept on the table. The traveling suitcase looked to be normal on the outside, but it had crimson bat symbol on the top next to a neon blue N. Robin waited in anticipation as he watched Batman move to open the case. Robin had received his new suit in a similar case, but a bit smaller. He had felt like a kid on Christmas when he saw what was inside, so he couldn't contain the excitement to see Batman's. Batman opened the case and noticed the crimson red outlining a bat. The pitchback suit was folded neatly inside the case, the foam keeping it in place. The had many hair-thin likes running around and connecting back. The fabric was this and elastic, resilient to many attacks. Batman traced his fingers on the suit. His could tell that this is more advanced than his bat armor. This suit was made with cutting-edge tech. He then moved his attention to the cowl, one similar to him, but it cowered his mouth. Batman lifted the cowl to his gaze, meeting its eyes. A mechanism triggered as Batman lifted the cowl. A folded slip ejected from the side. Batman pulled the slip and noticed that it was the instruction on how to wear the suit. The suit didn't come with much attachments. The suit only had two components: a spandex that would cover the whole body and a cowl. If he wanted attachments such as his utility belt, he could use his own. He could also move his armor plates to add to it. Unlike Robin's suit, Zion had left much of it for him to work with. "Robin," Batman turned to his partner, "I want you to stay in Gotham." "Why?" Robin questioned, exasperated, that he would be left out on an important mission. "Gotham needs its protector. While I am away, you need to keep Gotham safe," Batman answered in his tone of finality. Gotham couldn't be left unprotected. Robin couldn't say anything more. There was no argument. With the prospect of a massive takedown and complete radio silence, the criminals would have their Christmas in Gotham without Batman. The city would descend into chaos, and there would be no one to stop them. "Master Dick, I think it is wise for you to remain in Gotham," Alfred commented. "Detective Gordon contacted me. The police have regained radio communication and are currently evacuating civilians to safer locations. In Gotham's situation, law enforcement is conducting active patrols on the streets, trying to stop any impulsive criminal. They are also being informed about any potential criminal activity, even in the notorious crime alley." Batman turned to Alfred, a question raising in his mind. "Have they regained communication?" "I am here." This voice echoed in the Batcave, answering his question. "I have taken control of the police department across the world and am communicating with the needed vigilantes to maintain peace. When you are taking over, you need to make a good impression to the people." The Batcave went silent at the answer. ZAI was managing the total communication between the police and other needed departments. The night was busy. He didn't need to worry about big criminals as they are just watching from the shadows, while it is the petty and stupid ones that are trouble. "Why are you doing this?" Robin questioned. "I want to chill. I can't chill when the government can't even clean its mess." "And wear the suit, Batman. I don't like to repeat myself." "Well, I don't have to worry about you getting shot in the mouth," Alfred commented from the side, his eyes gazing at the new cowl. Batman removed his cowl and rested it on the table. It was time for him to suit up. Even though he had suspicions about wearing the suit, now was not the time to worry. He had an invasion to fight while Robin covered Gotham. Batman removed his gray suit and quickly changed to the new black spandex. The suit covered him up to his neck and stuck to his skin. His feet and palm had a thick padding to them. His defined muscles made of headwork showed themselves. Batman then proceeded to remove the utility belt and wrist plates from his old suit and attach them to the new suit, which integrated them easily. He then removed his iconic cowl and attached them to his shoulders. His chest adorned in red bat outline gleamed in the dark. He wore his cowl last. The elastic cowl fitted his face perfectly. The eyes shone red before the whole suit activated. The hair-thin red line light upped, and the suit expanded and contracted, adjusting to Batman's anatomy, and the cowl connected to the neck. Integration successful. "Welcome, Batman. Would you like a rundown of the functions available?" A bionic feminine voice asked Batman. Batman's eyes scanned the interface, noting the active map on the corner of his vision and other battle function and diagnostics of the suit running on his right. His eyes moved around the Batcave, a red tint to his vision. The interface interacted with each object of his gaze and projected its functions. Batman lifted his hand and clenched them tight, feeling a bursting power in them. His strength has increased. "Like it?" "It's the suit strength enhancer. But now is not the time to adore my creation. Time is running." Batman didn't reply and moved out of the room. Robin was waiting for him near the Batcomputer. "I will leave Gotham in your care," Batman stated before rushing to his Batplane. He pressed the buttons with practice ease and flew the plane out of the Batcave. Robin watched as his mentor fly away before turning to the Batcomputer. It was going to be a long night for both of them. Batman looked at the rising skyscrapers of Metropolis. The tall building extended to reach the sky, dark clouds drifting past them. It was his destination. He flew that Batplane in dark, taking it towards the docks, gliding above the sea. The sound of waves gave a calming feeling to the unrest mind. The Batplane landed near the docks, hidden among the many containers. The place was deserted with the only companionship of cold wind and distant sirens. The flash of red and blue were frequent, the cops patrolling the streets to keep the city safe. The radio silence from the government, and the order from unknown. The cops followed to keep the city safe while the world was darkened. Batman disembarked from the Batplane, his eyes scanning the darkness. He checked the map on the corner. He was here at his destination. Batman, a ghastly voice called from the midst of darkness. Batman turned, a batarang in hand. His eyes met the caller. 2 green orbs of deadly green, containing the cries of many souls. The eye moved forward, removing itself from the shadows and walked into the dim light. The giant of a being, covered in spiky armor of ghastly green and a giant sword on his back. His face a metal skull, its teeth sharp with eyes that bore into one's soul. The sight would make a grown man cry, in terror. But Batman had seen many, he had fought many. The flying man bats to giant ink crocodile in sewers. Batman narrowed his eyes and watched. He already noticed the cube on Metallo's grip. He understood as to why Zai had brought him here, but he had yet to identify the opponent as a foe or ally. Here, Metallo threw the cube to Batman, unceremoniously. Batman caught the cube easily, and scrutinized the Death Knight. His interface revealed not much information except for the green outline surrounding it. The interface though of him as ally. My work here is done, Metallo stated as he turned to leave. Why leave yet? The fireworks are about to begin. These words prompted the men to look to the sky. The night sky speckled with innumerable stars twinkling like diamonds strewn across dark velvet. As the darkness deepened, the first streak of light sliced through the sky like a blazing arrow. It was the beginning of a meteor shower. A celestial spectacle that displayed the wonders of the universe. With each passing moment, more meteors appeared, painting bright trails across the heavens in a mesmerizing display of cosmic beauty. Batman watched in awe as the meteors danced across the sky, their fiery tails tracing graceful arcs against the backdrop of stars. Some blazed with intense brightness, while others glowed with a softer, more ethereal light. Together, they formed a symphony of light and motion, painting the night sky with their celestial brushstrokes. The shimmering light filled the night sky, casting its divine glow, mesmerizing the viewers with its beauty. But the beauty turned to horror as the streak of lights increased, covering the night sky in their light. Chapter 49, Infiltrations. As words echoed in the heads of the heroes. The heroes didn't understand the meaning of these words. Even Martian Manhunter was left confused. But they knew that the fight was not over. They turned to their foe, and Manhunter commanded the troops to infiltrate. They scrutinized Morph as he laid unconscious, the cavity in his chest filling back. His body shook, and it was just the start. Morph's body twisted and turned as if he was having a seizure. After a minute of shaking, Morph's body went completely still. I don't have a good feeling about this, Green Lantern commented, the horror movies he had watched flashing in his mind. I will restrain him, Wonder Woman stated and pulled her lasso to restrain Morph. Suddenly, Wonder Woman froze, an icy shiver creeping up her spine, accompanied by the prickling touch of perspiration. Amidst the eerie stillness, a faint chuckle danced on the breeze, sending a chill down her already trembling frame. Morph's body stood back up like a vampire and bent forward, the laughter turning from a chuckle to maniacal one. Morph shivered with uncontrollable laughter, his hands covering his face. His white Martian skin shriveled up, cracks expanding around his body. The Martian body twisted and turned as its anatomy slowly changed, accompanied by a creepy bone-cracking sound, his back expanding, cracks running along it like a dried river. The skin changed, and the cracks colored with a heated glow. The air around him twisted from the heat emanating, and his skin took on a burnt color. Then the whole body exploded in flames accompanied by hysterical laughter. The heroes reeled back in fear. The scene invoked primal fear. They felt their minds in chaos as nightmare fuel churned. The flaming body moved with laughter, as if it had heard the funniest joke, but his hands dug into his skin from which flames burst forth. The fingers ran their course, digging through the charred skin. Morph's laughter stopped abruptly. His hand extended out and his nightmarish face looking to the sky. He gave the feeling that he was experiencing the world for the first time. Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern tensed, ready to fight. Suddenly, they felt a force pull them back. It was Martian Manhunter, pulling them back with his telekinesis. He looked to be in agony, his face scrunched up. He is dangerous, Martian muttered through his gritted teeth. Boom. The trio turned, only to see a flaming pillar rise to the skies from where Morph had stood. They felt it twist and turn, not in their vision but in their minds, and they screamed. Manhunter bit himself to keep moving and pulled the others back with him. The trio couldn't notice, but those flames were not just flames. They were made of psionic force filled with negative emotions. Sorrow, hatred, anger, and all negative emotions filled to the brim. The sight of the flames brought chaos to their psyche. Leaving already? A chilling voice spoke in their minds, shattering their psychic defenses. Boom. An explosion of psionic energy pushed the flaming tornado away, revealing the transformed boss. The fun had just begun. The final boss spoke in their minds, his overcoat fluttering in the winds of flame. The nightmarish creature had vanished, replaced by a flaming skeleton wearing a cowboy outfit with chains made of flame wrapped around him. The skeleton tipped his hat at the trio and met their gaze. Cowboy Ghost Rider. The trio looked at the empty sockets that were his eyes, and the flame covering his whole skull. The creature spoke fear, and its undead appearance just added to the horror. What in the Hades is that? Is that a flaming skeleton in a cowboy outfit? I am Neo Z, nice to meet you, heroes of Earth, he spoke with politeness. You can't leave now. Noise lifted his hand and clenched his fists as if he were grabbing something in the air and yanked it. At the same time, the quartet felt a force lock them in and drag them through the air toward Noise. Using the counterforce, Noise pulled himself toward them. Noise pulled back his arms and punched. His fist exploded with flames and psionic energy mixed. The four, unable to avoid the explosive punch, were sent flying in different directions. Noise freed the chains of flame. He swiftly moved his arm and wrist in a snapping motion, flicking the chains toward Wonder Woman. The chains wrapped around Wonder Woman before he pulled her to him and him to her. Wonder Woman bounded, flying towards him, her eyes locked in with his. She felt like the skeleton was smiling before a fist wrapped in burning chains collided with her face. Wonder Woman felt the full force of the collision move through her body, causing a concussion. Bam! Wonder Woman flew back like a rocket. The chains tightening, prompting Noise to flick his wrists, sending a wave through the chains. Wonder Woman was lifted in the air, and for a moment, her body moved fast toward the ground. Boom! Noise jumped with an explosion. He arrived next to the flying Martians, his overcoat extended like wings. He grasped Manhunter's head and breathed the flames of chaos onto him. Manhunter withered in flames, as chaos and pain dominated his mind. Noise performed a somersault and kicked Martian toward the ground. Boom! Before Martian could land, Noise was already on Green Lantern. He hopped from TK platform to platform before swinging the chains at Green Lantern and pulling them closer before delivering an axe kick on Green Lantern. Noise watched the green shield turn to dust as Green Lantern fell to the ground. And there was only one opponent left. Superman, who was still on a collision course somewhere. Noise turned to scan the surroundings, only to notice that Superman wasn't near. He had punched the guy a bit too hard, knocking him out first as he was the first to meet the fist. But Noise didn't know that. He squinted his eyes as he scanned further. Did I punch too hard? The Martians received the order to infiltrate from Monter-John Ions. The invisible bioships landed inside the city, dropping 6 troops made out of 20 Martians each. The troops then swept through the city in a practiced manner, fast enough to cross short distances between them and the tower yet slow enough that they wouldn't be flanked by enemies. A single team separated from the troop and approached the giant Gothic gate that stood tall and intimidating. They confirmed that it was safe and pushed the door. The troops struggled to push open the door, although they managed to open just enough for their weapons to pass through. The Martians then entered easily with their shape-shifting. The Martians quickly picked up their weapons and looked alert. They were ready to be swarmed by the enemies or the security system. But nothing happened. All they met was an empty corridor with a slight electric buzz in the backdrop. The Martian at the back gave the signal that the place was clear, and the Martians rushed in, leaving a single troop behind to keep the gate guarded. The 100 Martians moved with alert steps, at every step of the way. They didn't believe that their enemy would leave his home unguarded when he had millions of mechmorphs around the city. Maybe it was his defense, his belief that no one could cross the Black Land. But they didn't have time to ponder all possibilities. They arrived at a cross-section, a spiraling staircase, but this time there were 2, one leading up the tower and the other leading down. The leading Martian pondered for a moment before he instructed a troop to take the stairs down. Squad Row, take the stairs down and see if you could find anything useful, he instructed before turning to the rest. We go up. The troops divided and took their paths. The Martians didn't have time to admire the architecture. Squad Row took the staircase down until they reached a corridor that went in both directions. One of the seniors of the squad commanded the troop to divide into 2, but instructed them not to further divide down the path. The troop divided into 2 teams, and each moved in different directions. Team 2 arrived at the end of the path and came to a stair that led even further down. The team leader informed the other team before they moved to explore down. The stairs didn't lead them to another corridor but a door. The crystalline door reflected their images, making them nervous. They observed the control board that required a palm scan. The leader then shape-shifted. His height shrunk, his hair and eyes changed color, and his skin took on a chestnut hue. He looked exactly like Zion, like a perfect clone. The troop had received all the info extracted by the king when he scanned Zion's mind. Everything the guy knew of him and things he actually wouldn't notice. They contained much of Zion's info, from his blood type to his fingerprints. The Martian kept his hand on the panel and waited. A white light scanned his palm, and with a light buzz, the door opened to reveal the interior. The space was circular and empty except for the cells that glowed with faint blue light. The Martians walked in and noticed that 3 cells had occupants. In the first 2, crisp Martians were kept in a green light that kept scanning their bodies, and a panel floated next to them showing their vitals. The third one was filled with a slight red glow, and bathing in it was Kara, unfrozen from her binding spell. Zion had unbound her after he locked her in a cell made to keep Kryptonians. The Martians locked eyes with Kara. Kara just looked at them as she sat on a block of crystal. The team leader ignored Kara and moved to check the burned Martians. He saw the panel again and pressed his hand. The force field released, and the Martians moved to check the conditions. I advise not to remove them from the stasis pod, Kara advised while she locked eyes with the team leader who still looked like Zion. That is if you want them alive. Kara didn't need to guess to know it was a Martian. She knew Zion. He always gave her a slightly weird feeling when he was around. This was the reason she didn't trust Zion. That weird feeling always kept her alert. And the Martian gave none. The Martians stopped in their tracks and backed up. The team leader walked to Kara. His eyes locked in with hers. He could tell her mind was shielded, but not a telepath. What do you know about the pod? He demanded an answer. Kara just kept her eyes locked with the Martian. She was not intimidated by the guy. The form Zion took, the Hydra, was stronger and more frightening. This guy was a child acting intimidating compared to that. Answer me, the Martian repeated. Kara sighed and decided to humor the guy. The pod is keeping them stable. If you remove them, they will die. The Martian looked suspicious of the information, but he couldn't find any falsehood in Kara's eyes. While the team leader was talking to Kara, the second-in-command relayed the finding to the rest of the team, and a message came back immediately. The team leader received the relay and looked at Kara. Are you Kara Zor-El? He asked. I am, Kara answered. You are the cousin of Superman? Yes. I have been ordered to release you. The Martian pressed his hand on the panel that locked Kara. Superman with our Mantra and his friend are engaging the target outside now. That was what he was told to do, and he did. Kara got up as the force field died and the red glow stopped. She walked up to the Martian. Are your other teams trying to take control of the tower? Yes, he answered. Don't try, Kara stated before walking past him. But she wasn't done. The whole city is made of Kryptonian tech. You can't even scratch it with your powers. You need the one with the highest authority to open the control room. This is my draft. The heroes watched in confusion. They didn't understand Zayas' words. They didn't know what was happening. But they didn't need to search much as they saw Zion's body shrivel up. His white skin cracked like dry land. The cracks extended around his body, covering it in cracks. From the cracks came an orange glow before the body exploded with flame, covering it. The Martian reeled in horror at the sight. Images that frightened him to the core flashed through his mind. He knew of the fear of fire in Martians, but he felt that fear was taking shape and coming to life. Superman didn't know what was happening, but he felt like things just got a bit more complicated. Wonder Woman could sense the terror and horror, the one from hell that bathes in suffering in others and flames of suffering. Green Lantern's ring flashed with a blinking light. The flame-covering Morph's body rose to the sky. A tornado formed from flame and psionic energy. The psionic chaos caused the telepaths to shriek in pain. Even Martian Manhunter wasn't an exception. The others felt their brains turn to mush. Superman and Wonder Woman fell to the ground clutching their heads. Green Lantern turned into a streak of light and escaped. The psychic tornado burst from the ground and vanished, and in the middle stood a Martian covered in flames, his skin resembling volcanic land with rivers of lava flowing through his skin. His mere presence was felt by the Martians across the planet. No one could overlook the psionic field covering the whole planet. More for something more stood up, his voice disgruntled. That punch hurt. He turned and looked around. His transformation began when Superman punched him. Morph turned and looked at his opponents. He looked confused for a minute about their conditions, and it took a moment to realize what happened. He scratched his cheeks in fluster. He should have known that these guys are the weakened version of the Silver Age heroes. These guys are still inexperienced in fighting cosmic threats, and a burning Martian could take out them at their best. Should have expected something like this? Neo-Z said as he waved his hand, fixing the damage he did but keeping them unconscious. Maybe I shouldn't have been so dramatic. Zion knew that he shouldn't have gone for that cool entry. Now his opponents are out of order. Wasn't thinking much. Man, that build-up went to waste. ZAI appeared as a projection. He looked like Zion. ZAI appeared as a projection. He looked like Zion, but he was ethereal. I know, that psionic mixed with the tornado was a bit overboard, Noise admitted. You should have just gone with the flames. Come on, we are fighting with psychics. I want it to be a menace, Noise replied. Whatever. You don't have much time left for fun. Okay, Noise said in a deflated tone. He moved his hand, pulling the 6 bioships hidden toward him. He knew of their existence the minute they crossed the dark plains. He was just letting them have some fun. He was supposed to be defeated here, and the Martian prince hidden among them would bring victory to the Martians. But the people who were supposed to defeat him got knocked out. What a waste. Do you guys have any idea how many plans I had for my defeat? Noise grumbled. I hope the latter half could still function. Noise invaded the minds of the Martians and fixed the damages he did. He then dragged them out of the ships in troops. He felt like he was playing a simulation as he set them in position before he snapped his fingers. Chapter 50. 50, Twist. Jem Jax watched as Kara left. He could only watch from the side as he was here without authorization. He had joined the assault team in disguise. He really wanted to take part in this fight. He should be fighting to free his people. We will come back later to get the monitors, the team leader ordered. Join back with the other. Jem followed the rest out of the prison and joined back with the other team before moving up the stairs, returning to the main corridor. The team leader contacted the other troops and learned that they were at the top. The troops moved fast and reached the top since there was no danger. As per Troop A's exploration, they came face to face with another door. This door had many intricate carvings on it. What happened? The team leader questioned. The door is locked, the one leading the rest answered. Did you try to go through it? The team leader of Row asked. Instead of answering, the man density shifted his hand, which would normally allow them to phase through objects. But the minute he touched it, an electric snake jumped from the wall, giving him a shock. The man shook his hand to remove the numbness. It seems the female was right, Team 2's leader answered. Who? The female named Kara. She informed us that we couldn't open the control room without the authorization of the highest authority. We need to capture him then. Did you try in his form? Team 2's leader asked. No, but let's give it a try. The Martian then morphed into Zion and touched the wall. Open, he commanded. Really? Aren't you guys dumb? The door lit up in neon light, and the space was brightened to the limit, stunning everyone. Jem closed his eyes to avoid the flashbang while using his TK to scan the surroundings. It was then he noticed that he was the only one left. He abruptly opened his eyes in shock to search for others and tried to communicate with them through the link. But nothing, it was all he got. He looked around and noticed the familiar cubes lying on the floor and blasters protruding from the wall. Another light flashed, and a being constructed itself out of light. He looked like Zion, and he looked straight at Jem. Not the most intelligent move, Zi stated, picking up the cube next to him. He looked closely at it, twisting and turning it, observing carefully. We have much to discuss, Prince Jem Jax. He turned to the Garen wearing armor, its eyes opening wide. Jem didn't know how his disguise was seen through. He perfectly blended in with the other Martians. You're still green, aren't you? The general and the commander knew it was you the minute you walked in. How I knew you were Jem? That's a secret. He answered Jem thoughts. Now, come in. We have much to discuss. Why should I follow you? You already betrayed us, Jem shouted, his blasters pointing at Zor-El. Dude, buzz. All the blasters on the wall locked onto Jem. The slight buzz they gave off showed that they would fire at him, at a thought of pulling the trigger. Jem, I am trying to be civil. What do you want? Jem questioned, his blasters still pointing. Zor-El was baffled, but he also understood. Jem was just a teenager, and he also had the impulsivity disorder of all teenagers. If you listen, war will end. Why should I trust you? Jem questioned. Listen here, kid. I have a civilization of mechmorphs, and I outnumber and outgun you in every way. I could enslave your whole species in a day. So stop wasting my time. Zor-El was done dealing with idiots. Now you follow me. Zor-El waved his hand, and the door to the control room opened. Zor-El walked in leisurely, not caring about the blaster pointed at his back. Jem followed with guarded steps, ready to density shift to phase through the energy blaster and take control of the room. Don't try, Zor-El stated. He then waved his hand and pulled up the image of Mars in its entirety. The projection showed the location of the capital city, Malikarandra, and the remaining city. These cities were marked in green, covering less than 15% of the planet. The rest was lit up in gold, the territory of mechmorphs. I have control of the whole planet. If I wanted, I could make your species go extinct. I hope you don't want that. Jem watched the map in trepidation. This was the first time he saw the extent of Zion's reach on Mars. He could tell that they were fighting a losing battle, but he never believed that they were facing an insurmountable wall. What do you want? Jem asked, learning he had no way out of this. I want you to become King Jem Jax. So, you could control me? Jem scoffed. You are of no consequence, if I wanted control that is. You already know that. Zor-El flashed the image of Mars before Jem. Then why? Jem asked. You are a good kid, Jem Jax. You look toward the future and not the past. You have the character to become king. But you are still young. So, I want you to be my proxy. Proxy? Jem didn't understand. Yes. You will be working for me as you take on responsibilities. You will lead your people out of oppression and bring them here. A land flowing with milk and honey. You will be the king of this new land. Why me? Jem asked. You know your father will never allow your marriage with Syra, and the oppressed Ashen will rebel sooner or later. But you could change that if you become king. So what do you say? You will not control my people? Jem asked. Nope. Will they live freely? Yes. I will also allow you guys to use some of my tech. I have taken over Earth. Soon, you guys could even travel there. Jem thought for a moment, and arrived at his answer. He wanted for his people to be at peace, instead of die fighting. Okay, Jem agreed. As long as you don't go back on your word. That took a lot of convincing. What do I do now? Jem asked. Should I just go ask my people to come? That wouldn't work at all. I know, but I've got just the plan. Zion, after searching for a few minutes, found Superman about 5 miles away. He then dragged him back to where the others were and piled them up together. They were all lying on the ground. Now that he had knocked out most of the trouble, he had to deal with the last one. Noise turned to the sky. Good to see you, Kara, he stated. Kara looked at the pile of heroes and then to Zion. She knew she couldn't defeat Zion in a battle of strength. He was intelligent enough to counter all her moves, and with this new form with which he defeated Superman, she had no chance. And she recognized it. Why are you doing this, Zion? She asked. Noise nodded with a bit of pride, finally not choosing the punching option. You have grown well. Answer me, Zion. Why are you doing this? She asked again. For peace, Noise answered. For peace? You call this bringing peace? It was necessary. Those who don't know chaos will not appreciate peace. So you brought war to a civilization, to people who were just minding their business. They were not at peace, Kara. They were living in an illusion of it. True peace is only achieved when no one is oppressed. Ashen were condemned here. They were not treated right. They would have rebelled, and the straws they grasp in their desperation will not only bring an end to them but also to Earth. Beep beep. The Omnitrix on Noise's shoulder beeped. He was going to time out. You could have chosen to explain, Kara stated, not moving. No one would have believed. We would have, Kal-El would have. Noise de-transformed, returning to Zion with his suit. He would have stopped me, Zion replied. Because you were wrong. Kara decided not to attack. Am I, Kara? You understand it more than Kal-El. You have seen the worst of humanity. The humans are stuck in their ways. But they can be better. You have seen better. Yes, I have seen both of it. I know people can be good. That's why change needs to be brought, and I will make the world better, stronger, and more prepared. You don't need to do this, Zion. I have to. It is my mission after all. Zion smiled. The world will be better when you wake up. Zion dash. Kara couldn't finish her sentence as she froze in the air. Zion pulled out the device he was hiding. I will add the image later. This was the device he had asked Zor-El to make. This was a device made with Chronosapian biomatrix data. It functioned similarly to a watch and showed time. It showed the exact time of the universe and space-time coordinates. But that wasn't all its functions. It could control time for a short period, like moving forward or backward, slow or speeding up, and freezing time. It's called a quantum tempest. Yes, I did add quantum to make it cool. Now, Kara was frozen in a temporal bubble. She would be like this for a day or so, but it was more than enough for his plans. Now to deal with the heroes, he needed them. The humans needed their saviors. ZAI, is everything ready? Zion asked. Yup. Time to leave then, Zion spoke, and the ground rippled as many mechmorphs rose from the ground. They were in millions, and each was armed with a dehydration gun. They were his army. They would help him win the war without much trouble. The forces of the Dark God would have to meet their defeat today at his hands. Today he would conquer Earth. Today he would kill a god. Today he would bring change. Let's rock! Zion shouted as his helmet formed around his head, and the space glitched around the field. The millions of mechmorphs were teleported out of Mars. Their course was set towards Earth. Zion's suit created a force field enough to combat the vacuum of space and provide him with life support. The millions of mechmorphs traveled through space like streaking comets with tails on their backs. And the show had just begun. Chapter 51. 51, Dark God. The meteor shower covered Earth in its mesmerizing light, casting divine glow on the cities below. This event was like a millennium event. The sheer visual effect was going awe-invoking. But the horrors of this event revealed itself when the hundreds of thousands meteors changed their trajectory and plummeted down to Earth. The meteor shower turned into an apocalyptic event in a matter of seconds. The glowing meteors covered in inferno was very attractive to say the least. The people who gaze upon it felt their life flash by, and were awestruck. Then came the panic. They ran around, exiting their houses to take shelter. Families cuddled together. People revealed their secrets thinking they are all going to die. A homeless guy broke into food store to have his final meal. People ran around like headless chickens trying to keep the death away while some just accepted and made peace. These guys also completely ignored the message that they would be safe by staying inside their home. Well, human are the not most intelligent of group when panicked. They lose their reasoning and brain cells. The cities glowed as multitudes of meteors landed on the streets, perfectly avoiding the buildings. The shockwave spread from the collision, knocking out those that were running around off their feet. The cars buzzed and beeped, filling the whole city in noise. The people who were running around scattered like birds and rushed back into the buildings to take cover, while some with intelligence ran to subways and hid themselves safely. The police rushed to their nearby impact area and moved to check the meteor. The meteor was glowing gold, covered in a minor force field that took the brunt of the collision. The meteor then revealed itself to be a black oval object covered in circuitry lines. The police pulled out their gun, ready to shoot whatever that might pop out of the spaceship-looking thing. But nothing happened like that. Instead, the whole ship dissolved into a goo before it morphed into a humanoid with hands for blaster. The mechmorph stood up and scanned the officer who was pointing his gun. He didn't move nor attack. He was waiting for his orders. He just turned to the sky, looking at his sibling descend. The same was happening in many countries and cities. The mechmorphs just stood in their place while the police were alert, but they didn't know what to do. The communication between government was null and under ZIS control. Much of military force was moving only under the command of their officer with highest authority, but their efficiency was near zero. So, ZI took controls of the command, keeping these military personals from where his army had gathered. Do not attack them. People, you do not need to worry. They will not harm you. Don't try to kidnap them. ZI's voice echoes around the world, informing everyone not to attack the mechmorphs. The military officers and police were still on guards. The mechmorphs just stood still and wouldn't attack unless them deem it danger. The people who were running around finally calmed down and moved back to their homes for shelter. This was only a small portion of the people who were intelligent enough to understand something. So the rest stayed on the streets. But these people were of no consequence as Batman was watching a meteor shine brighter and bright. It took him a moment to realize that it was coming towards him. Fun fact, if a bright light on the sky doesn't move and keeps getting bigger, it's coming at you. Batman rushed away from where he stood and watched at the meteor impact. He kept himself standing against the shockwave and looked at the impact crater. In its middle stood a man in his classy suit that outlined in gold. He adjusted his suit and walked to them, his visor displaying a smile. Metallo, you have done your job well. Nyan spoke as he looked at the Death Knight who stood unmoving. You can take your leave or join the fun. Smiley face. Nyan then turned to Batman, the mother box. He extended his hand. Batman looked at his gloved hands and gave the Metallo's cube. Nyan took the cube and didn't talk about the other cube. Batman would understand in due time. Nyan then took a rod and stabbed the cube on it. This was a transfer stick which contained ZAIS code. With this he would be connected to the mother box and take over the system. I have disabled the booming. But it will take time for me to take full control. It will take time to court the mother box. Do what you want, ZAI. Nyan didn't comment on ZAI finding himself a girl. We will have Zai's love story with mother box later. Maybe. Now that the mother boxes are disabled, I think it's time for me to explain it to you. Nyan turned to Batman, someone who might just understand. These are mother box. They are sentient supercomputer that could access the multiverse and are used by new gods, overpowered aliens, to travel and conquer. Understood. Batman brought his mother box and looked at it. The intricate symbols adorning it showed it otherworldly origin. So, the invasion is over? No, Zion stated and turned to the sky. ZI is unable to take full control just yet. He was only able to disrupt the mother boxes in our hand and only for the time being. A tear rippled on the sky, a booming sound accompanying it. From the portal came an army of demons like the one Batman confronted. They looked to be hungry and screeched as they flooded out the portal. The war is just beginning, Nyan stated as a massive beam collided with the parademons as they rushed out the boon tube and turned them to dust. And it ended. Let's just enjoy the fireworks, Nyan stated as he sat on a box nearby. The mechmorphs around the world got up from their status and aimed their cannon to the sky. The millions of mechmorphs were charging up their disintegration ray. They had shifted the dehydration for some firepower. The people who were observing the mechmorphs became alert, but they held their weapons down. They didn't know better, but the blaster felt dangerous. Then boom, portals opened and a parade of demons rushed through the portal. But they met the combined fire of the mechmorphs who were ready. The cannon beam turned the parademons into dust and didn't just stop there, they chained to other parademons as they came in contact. The people across the world saw the horrors flood out from the space tier and the mechmorphs that arrived before finally moved and attacked. This relieved them as the person who took control was trying to at least protect them. The parademons died before they could even take a step as the mechmorphs covered every direction and kept their defense closed. Zion was creating an army for this reason. He was a Perron who liked to overgear to fight a boss, and he was prepared to face Darkseid and his armies. This was one of the reasons he took over Mars. He needed his own army to wage war. The millions of worlds that fell before, and the billions they have yet to conquer, the parademons never felt this much resistance. The ashes of the parademons covered the city in dust and the winds blew them away. Batman watched as the parademons were disintegrated. He upped Zion's level of danger to max, but he was also analyzing the demons. He knew that who made them had to have high-level tech. He needed to gather more information on these new gods. Who are these new god? Batman asked. He needed more information to create his contingency. They originate from a place called the Fourth World, which is on a different plane compared to Earth. They are beings that evolved to have power due to their close proximity to the source, a primeval energy that created everything. They each represent different concept, and the one who leads then is evil. They also have a better counterpart, but I wouldn't trust them. These mother boxes are their only way to reach us. Without these boxes they will be unable to come to Earth. Why do they want to conquer Earth? To feed their pits and keep their home alive, and moreover, Earth is special. Why do you think we have many aliens and supers gathered on this planet? This planet holds too many secrets that are never to be revealed, Zion stated as he watched the parademons turn to ash. Batman silently analyzed the information that he received. Item acquired. A message derived, causing Zion to smile. Did you call for backup? Nyan asked as he looked to the portal above him. Batman looked up and noticed the amount of parademons rushing though the portal halt. The disintegration beam died down with the amount of parademons. The portal rippled again, but this time the one who arrived was not a parademon but a grey giant wearing armor with Omega symbol on his chest. Batman figured that this was commanding figure of the invasion and pressed a button on his belt. This sent an alert to all those he assembled. This fight is going to be hell of a one, and he was not even close to being prepared. Darkseid floated about the water, his gaze scanning the metropolis as he looked for the perpetrator who stopped his army. He knew that he was here as the mother box that was disabled was here. Zion looked at the grey giant for a minute before he floated his dress, quickly attracting Darkseid's attention. He arrived at the same height as Darkseid and stood opposed to him. Are you the one who stopped my army? He questioned. Yes, I am, Nyan confirmed. Who are you? I want to know the name of the one I will kill, Darkseid stated as his eyes glowed red. Me? I am death, I am destruction, I am Darkseid, Zion imitated in Darkseid's gruff voice. Name's Nyan, you're death, straight up. Darkseid didn't talk more and blasted Nyan with his Omega beam. The dual laser, zigzag as it rushed to Nyan. Nyan just folded his hand and stood as the Omega beam collided with him. The beam collided with his force field and magic. Zion was prepared for everything. He was also prepared to kill the Dark God, but he needed an object to be delivered. Flopped. Nyan adjusted his suit. I was really trying to be civil. The portal behind Darkseid rippled and walked out ladies in ready tight outfits. One was carrying a mace, other a bow, and 2 knives and the third one a whip. Jep. They were Darkseid's furries. They were trained to fight for Darkseid by Granny Goddess. I will kill her later. Oh, you want to make this unfair? Zion asked. I will kill you myself, Darkseid stated and floated forward. That's what I like, Zion stated as he got ready to fight Evil God. Chapter 52. 52 God Killer. Zion looked at the Mad God, the Evil God, the Dark God, the Sly God, the Grey God, the God of I am too ugly, the God of anger issues, the God of furries, the God of backstabbing, the God of I can't stay still, and so on. The opponents stood still, their exchange yet to begin as Zion had an important question to ask. So, how do you want to brawl? May I suggest a game of chess? To Zion's innocent question, Darkseid responded with an Omega beam. Zion evaded the attack by creating a clone and teleporting away from the resulting explosion. He watched as the purple magicules burst into a shower of fireworks. I take that as a no? Zion stated as he turned to the Dark God. Stop wasting my time, insect, Darkseid responded, his patience running low. The only reason he had let Zion waste his time was due to his confidence in conquering this planet and due confidence in Zion's voice when he issued a challenge. As the ruler of Apocalypse, he had no equals who could give him an enjoyable fight. So, he liked it when an ant challenged a god. He liked crushing them. It was his pastime. Okay, Zion stated as he tugged at as much magic as he could before casting his spell. Hundreds of magic circles formed around Darkseid and his Furies before a blinding light exploded, sending massive shockwaves that decimated all the buildings around before a magical barrier put a halt to the destruction. What stood in the middle of the explosion was a massive ball of inferno. The glowing purple orb expanded while emitting high amounts of heat before it shrunk back and exploded with even more power. The magical barriers around the city fluctuated, straining at the power of the explosion. The sheer amount of magical fluctuations left traces for centuries to come, and the magic users around the world felt the ripples that shook them to their core. The explosion extinguished from the middle, and there stood Darkseid, unharmed and alone. His eyes glowed with Omega effect and his disappointment. He was not moved by the insignificant display of power. The nuclear payload of magical energy was insignificant compared to his Omega effect. This is what Darkseid's powers comes from. Is that your greatest power? Insignificant, Darkseid commented as he blasted another Omega beam at Zion. Zion jumped back and sacrificed his clone to the attack. No, I was just buying myself some time, Zion stated as a comet blitzed past Darkseid and halted next to Zion. The comet was a black metallic orb, and it split itself to reveal what it contained. The item brought a smile to Magic's lips. Inside that orb was a brass spear tip covered in dried blood, but the energy that was being released from it was uncanny. This was the Spear of Destiny, or the Spearhead of Destiny. The wooden shaft of the old spear was gone, leaving only the powered spearhead. Zion pulled the spearhead out of the orb and held it in his hand. He could feel the influence of the spear and its power coursing through him. The power to alter reality was in his hands. He felt like he could do anything now. Even the heroes of his world couldn't stop him. This was the spear that killed the Son of God who came down to cleanse people's sins. It was his purpose to die on the cross so the sinners could be forgiven for their sins and go to heaven. This is your and mine reminder to follow him. Jesus is God. He smiled as his magic started to suppress the spear's dark influence. He had changed form due to countering the dark influence of the spear. Unlike Burning Martian who thrived in negative emotions, Magic's was mild, and his magicule body would counter the dark force's control. He would not fall to the dark side. He then took out the expandable shaft made of nth metal that he had prepared and attached it to the spear, completing it. He was in a hurry. If not, he would have made a radion nuke just for Darkseid. But he had to do with the God Killer for now. The shaft extended, forming a full spear, and its magical glow was unmistakable. Zion spun the spear in his hand, performing slashes, stabs, thrusts, and counters. The spear fit perfectly in his hands, and he spun it one last time before he stabbed the foot of the spear next to him, solidifying the space around him as another Omega beam collided and exploded. Getting impatient, are we? Zion turned to Darkseid, displaying a cocky smile. Your death will not miss you for this Christmas, Darkseid. An insignificant weapon will not save you from your end, from Darkseid. Darkseid stated as he charged his hands with Omega effect. Stop saying your name, man, it is very cringe, Zion stated as he slashed with the God Killer, sending a wave of cosmic force toward Darkseid. Darkseid staked no more as he flew toward Zion and slapped the cosmic slash with his Omega fists. The forces collided, canceling each other, but Darkseid had two hands as he punched his other in Zion's direction, churning space and time as it traveled toward his challenger. Zion jumped back while performing another slash, sending another projectile and meeting the Omega force. The collision of energies shook the oceans and churned the tides. Zion landed spear to his back and taunted. Is that all you got? But the taunted was nowhere. Zion moved immediately as his senses flared of danger and swung the spear like a bat towards his right, meeting Darkseid's Omega smash. The two cosmic forces collided with full strength, and the world stood at a standstill. Shockwaves spread, red lightning struck, and the ocean boiled, and the wind raged. An earthquake shook the whole planet. This was no normal fight. This was a fight between cosmic beings, and the planet was of no consequence. The resulting explosion of the clash pushed the opponents away from each other. Darkseid flew towards space while Zion dug through the earth before coming to a halt. He gritted his teeth and shook his head to dispel the dark hold and jumped towards Darkseid. Darkseid, halting his flight, flew towards Zion. The two cosmic-powered beings collided at the middle, creating another volley of explosions with their moves. The slashes and punches collided, space and time cried. The sheer light effect blinded many. The world shook, and the higher beings turned their gaze to Earth. They had never cared for the backwater planet, but the astronomical cosmic forces were like the sun, very attractive. The wrath of God, Spectre, felt the cosmic forces shift. And he is going to make this fanfic go on a month-long break. Are you getting tired, Darkseid? Zion asked as the spear charged with another eldritch blast and collided with the Omega fists. The opponents recoiled from the exchange and looked at each other. Darkseid moved his hands to the side and noticed the blood drip from a cut which healed quickly. This was his first time in eons that he was harmed, and a mortal had drawn blood. Your bravery is commendable, but this ends now, Darkseid spoke as his powers increased with his Omega effect. Darkseid vanished from his place and appeared next to Zion and punched down. Zion, with his cosmic awareness, saw the move coming from a mile away and deflected the punch to the side before he thrust his spear into Darkseid's shoulder. The spear dug through and sent a jolt of pain through Darkseid. Darkseid, enraged, swung his fist out, slapping Zion away from him like a cannonball. Zion somersaulted a few times before he landed on his feet. He then immediately spun the spear to create a shield around him to block the overcharged Omega beam. Darkseid looked at Zion, enraged, with his eyes glowing red as the Omega effect leaked and attacked everything around him. The destructive force tore through space and created many cracks. The rubble around him turned to dust and the winds cried. Zion looked at Darkseid undeterred. He had seen Soulbound's fights with scarier beings than this god of darkness, and he also had another trick up his sleeve if he were to be ever defeated. The trick was dangerous, of course, and would put some cosmic beings on his tail. But who cares about that? Darkseid was coming. Zion dodged to the side and slashed the Omega beam away and sent an eldritch blast at Darkseid. Darkseid, taking a running start, slapped the eldritch blast away and slammed the ground, sending a shockwave towards Zion. Zion slammed the spear to the ground, sending a counterforce and nullifying the shockwave. Darkseid, using the moment to cover the distance, punched Zion. Zion leaned back unnaturally with the support of the spear, avoiding the fist by a hair's breadth, but his suit was torn by the Omega effect. Zion rolled back and looked at his torn tuxedo, and he couldn't look more devastated. He commanded the cosmic force and mended his torn tuxedo. He only felt relieved after the suit was mended. He then tapped the side of the helmet, making it retract back into his suit, revealing his dark purple skin and his flowing purple hair. "You have done it, Darkseid," Zion commented as he started running. Zion drew more power from the spear, but the corruptive force also increased. Zion vanished and appeared at a distance away, avoiding the Omega beam before vanishing from reality. Zion was hopping back and forth through the plains, hiding from Darkseid's cosmic awareness as he appeared above him and heavily slammed the spear on Darkseid. Darkseid, a master tactician and combat expert, moved in nick of time as he crossed his arms coated with Omega effect to block the attack. The forces ate each other, creating a crater as it pushed Darkseid down. Darkseid and Zion locked eyes as their forces battled it out for supremacy. "You will lose yourself in this fight, mortal," Darkseid stated as he could tell Zion's condition was deteriorating. The moment the God Killer appeared, Darkseid already noted its corruptive nature. He could tell the weapon was strong, so was its dark nature. He wanted a fight, and he knew he would win in the end when the dark force took over his opponent. "Sorry to disappoint then," Zion replied. The forced collision resulted in an explosion, pushing both the opponents back. Zion stabbed the spear into the ground to slow his momentum, and looked at Darkseid, who halted after creating a crevasse of 100 meters. The opponents were not yet out of the fight. Zion stood up, slamming the spear heel on the ground, sending a small shockwave of his own. Darkseid cracked his neck as he started running, which turned into a full-blown sprint. Zion followed Darkseid and sprinted. The opponents met again at the center. Darkseid took a wide swing, and Zion jumped up using Darkseid's arm and slashed at Darkseid's neck. But Darkseid expecting the attack and caught the spear with his hand, which drew blood as it dug into his head. Now Zion's weapon was caught, and his naked body couldn't block his power. Darkseid delivered his Omega punch to Zion's chest, sending him rocketing and colliding with the rubble, creating a cloud of dust with a height of 200 meters. Darkseid looked at his hand, where the cut was made and his blood dripped. The cut was not closing. His healing had halted. Even the wound on his shoulder was not healed. The god-killing spear was showing its effect, and even his Omega effect couldn't do much to it. Darkseid smiled. A worthy opponent. Batman, who had climbed out of the rubble and looked at the devastating effects of the exchange, wanted to quit his job and go back to being a billionaire. He was just fighting street thugs yesterday, and now he watched God fight, and without the armor Zion provided, he would have been killed in the resulting explosions. But he will not quit because he is Batman. This part is a joke. Chapter 53. 53, Coliseum, welcome to the Coliseum, a voice boomed. Cheers. A thunder of cheers followed the voice. Thousands of people rejoiced, each unique on their own, expressing their excitement. These photonic beings were the audience to today's match. They were here to witness the blood-boiling collision of two worlds, where blood and bones would be shed and souls would be lost. Okay, Zai appeared on the black grounds. He gazed at the thousands of spectators on grandstands, their excitement resonating with him. I know that you guys are excited, but let me first introduce the challengers. Whoa. Another thunder of cheers followed. On to my left, the one and only Furies. At S words, 3 humanoids appeared through glitched space. They fell to their knees at the sudden shift in gravity and pressure, but they quickly gathered themselves. The Furies quickly drew their weapons in alert as another bout of cheers shook the Coliseum. They looked at the grandstands and the thousands of people who were cheering. The Furies, elite team of female warriors, each a new god, trained only to serve Darkseid and his whims. They were bred to be the finest warriors of Apocalypse, ingrained with undying loyalty, and equipped to kill. They are the universe's imperfect killing machines. The Furies turned to Zai, who was announcing. Lashina used her whip to strike at him, but the weapon couldn't hit a hologram. Zai, unbothered, continued his announcement. On my right. Zion created an effect of suspense. Earth's mightiest warriors. Whoa. The people cheered, and Earth's mightiest appeared through the glitched space. They stood straight, their eyes immediately taking in their surrounding. Green Lantern flew up and saw the thousands of people who were cheering, even some women who sent him a flying kiss. Martian Manhunter just analyzed the situation calmly. Wonder Woman pointed her blades at Zai. Release us, she demanded. Zai turned to Wonder Woman, smiled, and flew up. The Earth's mightiest, Wonder Woman, champion of the Amazons, Martian Manhunter, the strongest telepath, and Green Lantern. The crowd cheered. Now that our challengers are introduced, let us begin the match, Zai spoke before he turned to the challengers. If you wish for freedom, defeat your challengers. Do you think we would work to your whims, mortal? Gilatina lashed. Zai just smiled. You have failed Darkseid. Furies. Do you think he would forgive you? The Furies remained silent. They knew the price of failure. But here is your chance. Defeat Earth's protectors and take their heads to Darkseid. Zai then turned to the Justice 3. Furies, they have ended many civilizations, doomed many planets, and Earth is their next target. Do your duties. With that, he vanished from them. Wonder Woman looked at the Furies. As a fellow warrior, I suggest we work together to escape before we begin killing each other. Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern flew next to her. You are dreaming if you think that we, gods, We'll lower ourselves to work with lowly creatures. Us Furies don't need your help. We will defeat you and present your head to Darkseid. Hail Darkseid, Lashina cried as she attacked with her whip. Artemis drew her bow, and Gelatina unsheathed her twin blades. Getting killed by hot chicks, not the worst way to go, Hal commented as his ring flashed bright. Do not let your guard down, they are strong and full of evil, Martian Manhunter spoke in their minds. So be it, we shall defeat them, Wonder Woman commented as she slapped away the whip before charging into battle. So, where will we, Barda? Zai turned to his prisoner. Big Barda, leader of the Furies, strongest warrior made in Granny Goddess's orphanage. She had many titles and was an unequaled fighter that even Darkseid kept an eye on her. Yet now, she was confined in a prison of sunstone that wrapped around her, keeping her from moving an inch. She could only show her frustration on her face. She looked like she would maim Zai with her bare hands. Oh yes, we were on the subject of betraying Darkseid, Zai spoke, not minding Barda's look of granting death. What do you say? You would be a fool to think I would betray Darkseid, Big Barda barked back. Really? Zai tilted his head, his face revealing an amused smile. You shouldn't lie, Barda. You were already thinking of leaving Apocalypse with your husband, Mr. Miracle. Zai's statement broke Barda's facade. Only for a moment. She quickly hid her emotions. She wasn't the leader of the Furies for nothing. I will never betray Darkseid. I will die before I betray Darkseid. You already have, Barda. You fell in love, Zai smiled, a genuine happy smile. Not everyone finds their love, but you did, even in the hellscapes of Apocalypse. I congratulate you on that. I hope I could too, but my situation is a bit special. Sorry, I was going off track. Barda, where were we again? Oh yes, your betrayal. Forgive me for being such a forgetful person. Most of my processing unit is being used to fight Motherbox and Fatherbox for control. But we are back on track. Barda, you already know that Apocalypse has no future. Your eyes were opened to it by Orly's death. You gained your resolve in your love. You are just waiting for the time to leave your dark past behind. Am I wrong, Barda? Barda's fake anger vanished from her face, but she remained silent, not admitting to anything. But her silence was more than an answer. I have a proposition for you, Barda. I am willing to lend you a hand if you are willing to leave Darkseid and live here in my city, Zai stated. I am only doing this because I like you, Barda. That is also the only reason the Furies are still alive. Zai released Barda from her confines. The Sunstone retreated back into the ground, granting Barda the freedom of movement. Darkseid will never allow this. He will send his whole army to capture me. And if Scott leaves, High Father will attack Apocalypse, Barda replied, rubbing her sore hands. Do you really think that they cares? Those two idiots are only waiting for the opportunity to kill each other, Zai commented. He never liked those who called themselves gods. Nothing but narcissistic idiots with powers. Their arrogance will always pave the path to their demise. High Father and Darkseid are just the two sides of the same coin. They just want to kill each other, nothing more. Moreover, Darkseid will die today. Zai waved his hand and displayed the battle on Earth. It was the clash between Zion and Darkseid. For the first time, she saw Darkseid being met with equal force and being harmed. She saw the unrelenting fight between two cosmic beings decimate the surroundings. The projection vanished after a minute. Use this to return home. Zai placed a spear in Barda's hand. This functions similarly to a boom tube. I am keeping the mother box occupied, so you only get a small window to get everything and everyone you want and return without leaving a trail. Barda looked at the metal orb with many intricates similar to a mother box running on them. She then looked at Zai. Why are you doing this? What do you want in return? Barda knew that nothing came for free. Even the most benevolent of people expect something in return. Zai gave her a smile. I like a good ending, and you might help tame a fluffball of fury. Now leave. Barda activated the orb and glitched out of reality. May a god fall today, Zai muttered, looking at the projection. The Furies and Earth's mightiest were stuck in their battle. Wonder Woman met Gelatina's blades with her own, their clashes echoing off the walls of the Colosseum drowned by the cheers of the audience. The sparks witnessed the clash of wills. Gelatina's blades were fierce like wild beasts as they met Diana's graceful ones. The battle of fury and warrior's grace made their battle even more breathtaking. Really, two beauties in tight fight swimsuits battling with blades. You don't get to see that anywhere else. Kidding. Gelatina went for the kill, but Wonder Woman matched her mettle without relenting. Wonder Woman parried the twin sword and kicked Gelatina, but Gelatina rolled with the kick and jumped back. Do you need help? Green Lantern asked as he flew overhead, followed by many arrows. I can handle myself, worry about yourself. Wonder Woman moved, avoiding Lashina's whip, and struck back. Green Lantern turned and constructed many flare decoys to combat the arrows. The explosion of the arrows made him a bit frightened. You've got to be kidding me. Green Lantern decided to go on the offensive to save his livelihood and constructed many missiles and sent them at Artemis. The green missiles flew towards Artemis before they met her arrows and exploded in the air. The two exchanged an aerial battle continued as missiles and gunfire met arrows. Green Lantern used a Gatling gun to shoot down Artemis, but she was nimble and fast enough to dodge his bullets. However, in the middle of her acrobatic stunt, she felt her body freeze and caught a missile to the face. Thanks, Manhunter, Green Lantern stated as he moved his fire to Lashina. Martian Manhunter shifted through the barrage of bullets, but Lashina swung her whip, protecting her and tanked the rest with her skin. The new god physiology really comes through. Martian Manhunter, noticing this, shifted his direction. Lashina, furious, whipped at Green Lantern. Green Lantern created a massive hand and grabbed the whip and pulled. Lashina was lifted off her feet and met Manhunter's fist. The punch sent her flying in Artemis' direction. Artemis rolled away, avoiding collision with Lashina, and released a flurry of arrows at Green Lantern and Manhunter. "They are really durable," Green Lantern commented, to which Manhunter just nodded. While the duo was ganging up on the two poor ladies, Wonder Woman was locked in a battle with Gelatina. The two were headlocked, each going for the kill. Wonder Woman parried the blades, dropped down, and performed a leg sweep. Gelatina, losing her balance, fell to the ground and rolled away, avoiding the stomp from Wonder Woman. Gelatina gathered herself and blocked Wonder Woman's heavy slash with her blade, but she got Spartan kicked. Truly the daughter of Zeus. Gelatina rolled back, wind knocked out of her lungs. Wonder Woman didn't stop and shield bashed Gelatina before she practiced combos on Gelatina to the point the new god bled. She should have played God of War before coming here. She then tied up the defeated Gelatina and turned to her fellow colleagues. Manhunter was flying around with many arrows following him while Green Lantern rained fire from the air. He pulled out all his arsenal and fired it at the Furies. Manhunter used the smoke created by the explosion and directed the arrows that were following him to the Furies. He caught the two Furies who didn't know better and threw them at the arrows. His strength was comparable to Superman. The Furies were paperweight. The arrows struck true and exploded on their faces. However, Artemis hadn't only used her heat-seeker arrows but also her binding arrows. The two burned Furies found themselves tied up. The two Furies wiggled to get out of their binds to no avail. They were tied and defeated. Green Lantern grabbed the two with his light constructs. He had a cocky smile on his face. "Would you look at that? We lowly creatures defeated you." Lashina could only growl and struggle. Wonder Woman dragged the beaten Gelatina and tied up the three together. Yet the battle is yet to end. They need to find a way to leave here. Good work, people. Chapter 54. 54. God Killer Number 2. Boom crick crack bam. Litters. Zion exclaimed as he rose from the rubble. He had dug at least few meters into the earthen wall with that punch. His dress was torn and his skin was covered in dust. He was a total mess and looked like he'd rolled in mud. He used the spear's reality warping power to fix the coat, again. After fixing himself, he looked at the battlefield. Area of 300,000 meters was leveled and sunken 1 kilometer below water level, including sea floor. He could see the water wall made by his barrier. They have devastated the land with their clashes. Well, all long as no one points their fingers. Zion shrugged and started walking. At the last moment before Darkseid punch connected, Zion warped the spear to his hand and blocked the overcharged Omega punch. Had he not, he would have burst like a water balloon. Darkseid was really taking this fight seriously and drawing more from his Omega effect, which is making Zion draw more power from the spear. Maybe I should just destroy the whole solar system and find a better place to live. Yeah, I could even rule the planet. No one would be there to annoy me and I can just chill. I can just abandon this crux world. I should just do it. Zion was increasingly feeling more annoyed at everything. A dark aura from the spear was digging through his hand and crawling to his head. The corruption of spear was slowly starting to influence him, especially with more power he drew from it. The influence was showing its effect now that the target of hostility was away. The focus on Darkseid had momentarily shifted, leaving a gap for it to control. The images of riches, beauties and the dead bodies he would pile to make his throne. The dark hold crawled into the depth of his psyche to take control, making him fall to its temptations. Zion's face started displaying more frenzy as more memories the dark hold took control. Finally it arrived at the final door, chained with golden chains. "Good, you survived," Darkseid stated as he looked at Zion. "Yet not entirely, you have lost yourself to darkness." He smiled. "Yet I am unrestrained," Zion spoke, pointing the spear at Darkseid. "Now, come meet your death. I shall remember you, mortal, as one who gave me joy of battle in eons," Darkseid stated as he charged himself with Omega effect that his eyes turned blazing red and the destructive energy leaking in the form of red lightning. He then threw the red lightning packed with nature of his Omega effect, destruction. The red lightning tore through space and time and arrived at Zion at an instant. Zion moved, and the spear cleaved the lightning without much effort while sending a wave of chaotic force that bent reality at Darkseid. Darkseid met the chaotic force with his own, cancelling it out, but before Darkseid could recover, Zion appeared in the air and slammed the spear on Darkseid. Darkseid crossed his arms coated with Omega effect, blocking it. However, the sheer force packed behind sunk Darkseid and the whole area a kilometer more. The oceans churned and the destruction followed. Batman tanked the hurricanes, his gaze never leaving the two who were fighting. "A ad meme here." Zion flipped back and vanished into air and appeared behind Darkseid, thrusting his spear into the Dark God's unguarded back. However, Darkseid was a master combatant. He protected his back by firing an Omega beam which sent the spear off course before he gave Zion a backhanded swing. Zion again vanished and appeared to Darkseid's side. His spear again pointed. Darkseid moved again in time to avoid. Yet Zion vanished and appeared again ready to strike his weak points. Darkseid moved fast enough to block, but Zion kept vanishing in and out of reality, always aiming for the weak spots in Darkseid form. Zion moved so fast. It looked like Darkseid was fighting multiple opponents. Darkseid was getting overwhelmed and Zion was slowly drawing blood. Small cuts appeared on Darkseid, blood dripping from them. Darkseid, finally having enough of the hide and seek, lifted his legs and stumped with all his power. His Omega effect exploded, pushing Zion from the space fold. Zion stabbed the spear's heel to halt his moment and look at Darkseid, who looked awfully annoyed. "Annoying fly," Darkseid stated, his fist turning red with Omega effect. He didn't wait for Zion's dumb quip and Omega smashed. Zion moved the spear swiftly to defend himself, but the shockwave still threw him back. And Darkseid wasn't letting. He blitzed next to Zion and gave a heavy punch, sending Zion rocketing towards space. He again blitzed and punched Zion down. Bam 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 bam. Boom. This happened a few more times and Zion finally slammed into the earth walls. Fucking hell. Zion staggered out of the crater and spit to the side. His purple blood quickly evaporated and joined the nature. His felt like his insides have burst like a bubble, but that was clearly not the case as he was fully made of mana, however, it sure felt like it. Zion used the spear to support himself as his body started to heal quickly. You hit like a bitch. His hand stopped shaking and his buzzing head cleared. The corruption broke the final chains of his subconscious, opening the dark door. It entered and met a darkness that was like an abyss. The corruption tried to spread, but it could never cover infinity. The two now gazed at each other. Zion took the spear stance and gestured for Darkseid to come. Darkseid accepted the invite and charged at full speed. His each step shook the planet and the trail destruction followed his wake. Omega effect blazed off of Darkseid, his size and power increasing. Zion waited, his hands gripping the spear tightly. His eyes fixed tightly on the dark god, the only obstacle to his dominion, one he would slay. The spear glowed, cosmic energies converging to its tip. The whole spear glowed a golden red mixture, emitting an aura of death. Darkseid's hands took a dark tone and the space around it curved. Gravity increased and times came to a standstill. Darkseid was using his gravity manipulation to bend the space and times around his fist to create a more destructive force. Zion saw the change but wasn't fazed. He waited and Darkseid leapt, destructive forces converging on his hands. Zion changed his stance, spinning to the spear around him at increasing speed, gaining momentum before he met Darkseid's fist. Bump. The force of collision ripped reality, changed time and space. The barrier dissolved and tsunamis rolled into Metropolis. The scale of destruction expanded on an unimaginable scale. The sheer force shifted the tectonic plates of Earth. The Earth divided and the oceans shifted. The scar left in the void would be remembered to the end of time. Zion ripped through the Earth's core and appeared on the other side of the planet while Darkseid was pushed past the moon. Zion floated on the space, his suit torn to shreds and leaving only the pants that his Omnitrix gave to magic. Zion's mind clouded and consciousness drifted to its darkest corner. He looked up, his mind now clear of corruption. The sealed door was open and the golden chains laid on the ground. His subconscious that took the shape of his room now dark. He walked to the door. He gazed into the abyss. He could see the corruption constrained in place by the darkness, unable to expand. He walked in and the door closed behind him. Litters. Zion woke up gasping for air in vacuum of space. I nearly got lost. He immediately turned to the spear in his hand. The bronze spear tip was burning in golden flame emitting black smoke. Golden chains bore out of his hand chaining the spear as it shook. The golden flame was burning the corruption and the spear was trying to escape, yet to its horror it couldn't warp itself. Zion could tell that the corruption had no hold of him anymore. The spear was purified and now it was nothing but a divine weapon, still capable of slaying gods and demons, and Spectre. Zion tightened his grip and the chains retracted back into his hand leaving golden runes on his hands. The perfect contrast of bright gold against dark purple. Trix, you got the biomatrix data, Zion asked. Affirmative. Okay, time to end this, Zion stated as he hit the heel of the spear on the space. The spear glowed with power and dominance. The space and time knelt and the world they had broken mended back together. The time reversed and Earth returned to the way it was before Zion started the fight. You have shaken off the corruption, mortal, Darkseid stated as he appeared. His voice held a hit of surprise for the darkness he felt was great. A normal mortal could never be not affected by it, even if it was made of magic. Resistance was futile. I know, I am awesome, Zion stated without a worry. Yet it won't stop your end, Darkseid stated as he entered into his third boss phase. His eyes glowed like burning inferno, his whole body was covered in Omega effect and red lightning coiled around his body. His size increased, so did the power. His whole aura spoke of unending destruction. Zion with the Spear of Destiny in his hands looked at Darkseid like he was playing a game and watching the boss go into second phase. Submit before me, and I might let you live, or suffer the consequences of your insolence. There is no escaping the inevitable, for I am Darkseid, and before me, all light fades to nothingness. Darkseid stated. This was his final offer to Zion. As a worthy warrior who entertained him, Darkseid wanted him to his side, to be under his rule. Darkseid liked those that opposed him to be slaved. His felt pleasure in watching them suffer. Nope, nah. Zion rejected. You are no end. You are no darkness. Zion's eyes took a different emotion. I have seen world's end. I have witnessed great darkness swallow creation. I have seen void take form and oblivion rewritten. I have seen flames of creation being stuffed and born anew. But you are nothing but a shadow born of light. Zion spoke as he took his stance, his hands spread at distance, gripping the spear stably. His form was perfect like that of a spearmaster and the Spear of Destiny blazed with golden flames. The glyph on Zion's arm glowed with the spear. The reality twisted, creaked, and tore. Space and time became chaotic. You speak of greater darkness? Such arrogance. Darkseid was royally pissed. He as a dark god have been trying to attain that form, to be the great darkness that ruled over everything. I am darkness, I am end, I am death, I am your greatest fear. And I am here to conquer, Zion stated as he thrust forward the now gigantic spear. The spear moved through realities and collided with Darkseid, making him take a step back and kept pushing him. Darkseid used his full power to obliterate the golden spear, but his efforts were futile. However, Darkseid didn't need to destroy it. He smashed the spear to the side, removing himself from the tip of the spear. Zion glitched and appeared, his spear burning ready to kill him. Darkseid blasted his overcharged Omega beam, but Zion deflected it with ease and slashed at Darkseid. Darkseid met the spear with his fist with the red lighting and Omega effect on blast mode. The destructive forces crawled toward Zion, but they were destroyed before they even got near him. Zion then jumped, crossing through realities. He saw galaxies twist in the corner of his vision, but he didn't have time to enjoy them. Zion jumped back to where Darkseid stood. However, Darkseid was not there. Zion turned. Floppers. Darkseid's Omega-covered fist collided with Zion's face. The punch obliterated Zion's face, but it began to heal with the power of the spear. But Darkseid slowed down time with his gravity manipulation and punched Zion with his full force 1,000 times in a matter of second. Darkseid ended his time dilation and Zion's body turned to red mist in space. He grabbed the Spear of Destiny. Zion, the wielder of Omnitrix and the Spear of Destiny, died at the hands of Darkseid. Darkseid, after fighting so long with Zion, had already got the hang of his reality jumps. This time Darkseid was ready and Zion had let his guard down. Zion had gotten arrogant due to his expanded power, making him think he could beat the Dark God easily. Darkseid used the Spear of Destiny to not only conquer Earth, but also gain the anti-life equation. He then used the anti-life equation to control all life in the universe and became a supreme god of the universe. But it was not the end of his regime. He wanted more and he wanted the other universe. He used his power to tear through reality and conquered many other universes in the multiverse. The Mad God conquest continued. Thank you for reading my fan FIC. I enjoyed writing it and I hope you guys enjoyed reading it. I am thinking of writing another fan FIC with MCU. So, let us meet in another story. Just kidding. Zion appeared through another reality crack. The Spear of Destiny in Darkseid's hands vanished while Zion held the real one which stabbed through Darkseid's calves. I am inevitable. He spoke as he kicked the spear, tearing Darkseid's legs to ribbons, making the god kneel, before he spun the spear and slashed Darkseid's neck, killing the Dark God and ending his regime of tyranny. Chapter 55, Aftermath. Give him back. Give him back. Give him back. Zion screamed at the top of his lungs. A few moments before, the Spear of Destiny divided the Dark God's skin like a mathematician, precise. Zion's full focus was concentrated on ending him and he was too close to achieving it. He had sealed of his retreat and caught him unguarded. He couldn't and wouldn't let this guy leave here alive. However, what Zion didn't expect was another's involvement. An axe collided with the Spear of Destiny, derailing its path while a giant kicked Darkseid away from its grip. The spear was fast enough to carve through the Dark God's chest, but was slow that it couldn't end him. The spear ended its course and Zion looked at the bloodied spear in a daze for a moment. He couldn't believe that death of an arrogant god had slipped by his hands. His head snapped in Darkseid's direction, fury burning in his eyes. Give him back. He is mine. Zion threw the spear in all fury. The Spear of Destiny cleaved through reality and stuck true as it ripped through the giant. But Zion was too late in his reaction. He watched as a boom tube swallowed Darkseid while his blood spilled all across the vacuum. The spear have failed its destiny. ZAI. Zion called as he willed the spear back. Couldn't stop it. Motherbox channeled all her energy to create those boom tubes. They were her final ones. Ha! Zion breathed a long sigh and turned to the fish his spear had caught. The giant of a man in full armor wearing a helmet adorned with horns. He lifted the spear and looked at the draining life of his annoyance. The guy was at death's door, if not for the resilience of a new god that would have taken his life, and Zion didn't exactly put the intent to kill. All he wanted was to stop Darkseid, but hey, life isn't fair. Steppenwolf, Zion spoke. Death will not grace you. Zion planted his foot on Steppenwolf's body and ripped the spear out it. The blood spurted out and filled the empty space. Zion, without a care for the blood that covered him, shook the blood of the spear. He then warped Steppenwolf to a chamber in his city where the new god physiology will be thoroughly studied. Zion then will himself a presentable and comfy dress. Gray hoodie and tracksuit. The shaft shrunk to a size that he could keep the spear in his pocket and warped back to Metropolis, good as new. He arrived at the docks which looked exactly like when he arrived and Batman standing there. He had no idea what happened to Metallo. Batman. Zion gave a small wave as he walked. Batman didn't wait for any formality and asked the question, where is he? Who? Zion tilted his head. Darkseid. 下划线下划线. Escaped. Degree. Escaped. Yes. Underscore. Oh whoa. Zion and Batman looked at each other for a moment before Batman turned and walked away. He didn't pull his vanishing move due to Zion just looking at him without being distracted. Batman walked back to his jet and rode it to the sunrise. Zion stood as he watched sunrise. He watched the sky turned red as a yawn knocked at his mouth. Zai, are the mechmorphs back? Zion asked as he yawned. Yes, and all accounted. Proceed with the plan. I will meet those idiots in a week, Zion stated as he glitched out of reality and appeared before his warehouse. Zion opened the spatial lock and retrieved his car. He was tired and had spent a year's worth of social battery. He wanted to go home and not think about any of this. So that's what he did. He went home, to Heavenfield. Zai walked into the room full of people. 4. Superman, Kara, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, the mightiest heroes of Earth. They had watched the whole fight between Zion and Darkseid. They saw the devastation of such fight. They were agitated at first when Zai approached, but they were convinced after he showed them the image of Darkseid. Hello guys, you can return home now, Zai spoke as he walked in. Happy, upright arrow. Zai informed the heroes that they can go home. The heroes immediately stood up at his voice, each having a different emotions. They had seen the whole fight between Zion and Darkseid, also his escape. Where is Zion? Kara questioned. Zion went home, Zai answered. Home? Superman asked. Home, Zion answered, pressing the word. Then explain in his stead, Kara demanded. Other heroes could only watch as Kara seemed more familiar to the person in question than them. They all watched them converse, waiting to catch details they need, answers to their question. Explain why that guy was targeting Earth? Kara demanded. Okay, I will try to explain what is going on, Zai decided to give answers. Let's start with Darkseid. Darkseid is the ruler of a hell world called Apocalypse. He was here to conquer Earth and use its resources to power Apocalypse. As for Darkseid and his goons, they call themselves new gods. They are beings who have reached the peak of evolution and genetic stability. I hope this quench your curiosity because I can't give you another answer. The heroes looked at Zai, still holding many questions, but Zai was not going to answer them. Some of you have the means to get your answers, Zai threw a bone, looking at Wonder Woman and Green Lantern. But now it is time for you to return. I will send the other back later. Bye-bye. Wait dash. All of them glitched out before Kara could begin another chain of dialogues. Zai sighed. I better let Zion deal with her. Let me return to courting Motherbox, maybe she will hand over the rest of the authority. I should really find a better job. The heroes of Earth materialized before a crowd of onlookers who gasped at their sudden appearance. They quickly gathered around the four heroes, making inquiries about the abnormalities of the past hours. The onlookers, consisting of police, reporters and civilians, barraged the heroes with questions. Superheroes were overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of inquirers. Green Lantern, unable to take the pressure and not wanting to deal with crowd control, took to the skies. He had questions and hoped the Guardians would answer. I will take my leave. Wonder Woman was polite enough to saw that before departing. She was going home to ask questions and hoped her mother or the gods would answer. With only the supers left behind, Superman, being the mature one as both superhero and reporter, decided to answer the inquirers or at least calm the masses. He flew up so all could see him. I do not know of the being who attacked Earth, but I am familiar with this person who calls himself Nyan. I have conversed with him and I believe he wants to do good. But I assure you that if Earth is endangered, I will be there to do my duty, Superman promised. So return home and wait for the authorities to handle this mess. Please don't create panic among people. We will protect the metropolis as we did before. He then looked at the anxious faces of the people and gave them an assured smile. He knew that the people were afraid of the future and what it means for them. But he hoped Zion, as a Terran, would only have Earth's best in his mind. There were many reasons he didn't try to fight Zion in freeing Earth and letting it continue the way it did. As a reporter, he had seen how corrupt the world is. He had seen the world for what it was, but a change was needed. He could only do so much, but Zion with control over the whole planet and its government could do more. He just hoped that it won't be another tyranny. He gave them a nod before flying away. Kara flew up and looked down at the people. She could feel they still feared. We will continue to protect this city. I will break the bones of those try to do otherwise, Kara assured in her own way before flying away. On one of the high towers of Metropolis had gathered the backup Batman called. They watched as the heroes appeared and be flanked by the crowd. They had gathered here in after dealing with trouble of their own. Flash had helped the Star Labs on their own pest, but he was late to save the Dr. Stone's kid. However, the doctor had already helped his son in his own way. But the kid flew away somewhere. He also met the Mechmorph who only attacked the things that came out of the portal. So he let them alone to deal with the things in Central City, and answered Batman's call and met up with the others he had gathered. He then met up with Green Arrow, as the Vigilante called himself, and Black Canary who arrived later. They had gathered at the top to scout, but they were unable to intervene in the fight due to the barrier. They didn't even try to destroy the barrier as it was the only thing that was protecting the rest of the city from being leveled. Each recognized that the fight was beyond their pay grade, so they opted to watch, and they did. They waited just in case something else pops up and saw the heroes appear. Should we go introduce ourselves? Flash asked. No. Green Arrow gave his answer and took his head. We got nothing to do here. Canary took her leave too. Okay. Flash watched as Superman flew away and blitzed away. It took few hours for people across the world to finally calm down. They all saw that they were not dead and their life continued the same as it did the day before. All had returned to the normal except for the glooming fear of unknown. People tried to return to their now so normal life until Nyan released another message. Hello, people of Terra. Nyan appeared in all screen across the world in his iconic suit and helmet. I know that most of you are scared of the future after my whole announcement of taking over Earth. Do not worry, there is nothing to fear. I only think to improve your lives. And I mean, you have already let many deceive you and lead you astray with no hope in sight. You all messed up the whole planet and still struggling to even comprehend it. Those at the hierarchy lead you to nothing but destruction while they enjoy the riches. Don't you think it is time for something better? Again, I assure you that there will not be much change to your daily lived, and I am going not trying slave you humans, but I have come to free you of your shackled and lead you to the stars. In about a decade after my takeover, all of you can look forward to your journey to the stars. Even the distance of the next galaxy won't be in pipe dream. I will end poverty and make your lives better. I promise you all of this on my takeover, but I can't guarantee that your government will like that growth. After all, who would like their sheep's eyes being opened? I will meet the heads of your world and UN Council in New York City next Sunday. I hope this transition is smooth and all of you are ready for the better future. Peace out. Onaji, bye-bye. The screens turned dark, and the world stood still in silence. Sorry, your communications are back. Nyan appeared again and gave a slight heart attack to people. With that, the screen turned black and the notification sound filled the cities as the communication network came back online. The amount of traffic in each of these sites crashed them. The people who couldn't communicate shared their thoughts across many platforms. Chapter 56. 56, Home. Ring 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 ring. The sound of the doorbell echoed in the serenity calm of the house. A young man about 5 feet 7 inches walked from the kitchen. His bare foot tapped across the marbled floor. He wore a loose t-shirt and a black trousers. His brown hair cut short and his amber eyes holding peace. He opened the inner wooden door and looked through the screen door to see who it was. The person who had rung the bell immediately looked to him as the door opened. He waved his hand with a tired smile. The young man in gray hoodie looked like he had had the worst day of his life, absolutely drained of life. Zion. Mark asked as he opened the screen door. Yo mate, Zion replied in a tried voice as he walked himself in. He removed his slippers and placed them in the rack with familiarity. He then walked into the living room, placed the bag he was carrying on the table and flopped down on the couch. He squirmed for a moment before he settled on his comfortable position. He then extended his hand to take the food he had bought, but noticed that Mark was still standing. Mark stood as he watched Zion take back his throne, the place he was every time of the day. Zion had been fixed to that comfy couch that even Mark's parents don't sit there. Well, except for Mark's mother. Zion was respectful towards the lady as the men of the house were under her control. You want some? Zion asked as he took his smoothie and a roll of shawarma. He had bought the food from Bobby's. The man was competent enough to not shut down the restaurant. He basically didn't care of the situation. He was even cheery about the new powers takeover. He said, and I quote, I don't need to worry as long as Superman says he will protect us. He also gave him extra rolls, due to his frequent visits. Really? Fast food the first thing in the morning? Mark asked as he took the single-seater. He also took a shawarma and unwrapped it. He had yet to have his breakfast and the food was still hot. The duo ate their meal in silence and comfort, not sharing a word. They went back to a time, about 2 months ago, revisiting their time together in this house. Aunt May and Uncle Ben aren't back yet? Zion asked as he gulped the last bit and slurped the smoothie. They will be back in about a month or so. They seem to be enjoying the break, Mark remarked. I just pray that they will return safe with all the things that has been happening. Mark shared his worries to his trusted friend. He had seen the declaration and the fireworks that happened last night. He had also felt light shockwaves that travels through the earth and the fireworks that happened on the night sky. He was scared. Even with superpowered individual he felt so small. He was also scared of the future. After all, Zion had told him that future will be full of chaos and being of power would collide and the thing are happening. You were not involved in this, right, Zion? Mark asked, expecting a resounding no. No, I was the one who instigated it all, Zion answered to Mark's dismay. Mark chalked on air at Zion's answer. Good thing he ate his food. He had a coughing fit before he turned to Zion. You? What? Mark asked, still coughing in between. Yeah man. You had no idea how much litters went down. I got to know Superman and Batman dash. Wait, Batman is real? Mark asked. Yes, he is and he dressed like a bat, Zion answered before continuing. After that I went to Mars and met up with Martians. I also stole their planet and went to war with them. Then I fought Wonder Woman, Green Lantern and Superman and Martian Manhunter. Then I took over Earth and fought a guy who called himself Death named Darkseid. Mark looked at Zion frozen. You kidding me? Nope dude, I got superpowers remember, Zion answered truthfully and flexed his Omnitrix. Mark wiped his face with his hand and took a deep breath. His brain was reorganizing the total dump of data. It went over all of it from the start and linked the events together, but he still got an error at the end. His brain was not braining. Then Nyan? Mark asked. He had seen it on his phone. He had freaked out when his phone randomly started playing a video. He nearly exorcised it in fire. He then watched the declaration, and tried to call his parents but he couldn't. ZAI was being fair. He then met with the elders of Heavenfield. The discussion ended with they will see what happens attitude. It is yours truly, Zion grinned. Mark looked Zion up and down. Now that Mark though about it, he did find the guy familiar. But his normal mind couldn't comprehend such absurdity. It not like you would immediately believe something of such significance after living a normal life. He even forgot about Mars and Martians. Why are you taking over the planet? How are you taking over the planet? Mark asked the two from his million question. Because I can and I want to, Zion answered. And I have the nuke codes. Why? Mark asked, still not understanding. Really, dude? Do you not see the world? We, humans, have made everything worse. People and countries have lost their ways, men and women are losing their identities and the children are being killed because a woman couldn't keep her trap shut. Zion spoke, a rage rising. All of it had gone wrong, way too wrong. I am going to correct it. I don't care about the others but killing children is where I draw the freaking line. Zion breathed out, gaining back control of his flaring emotions. His suppressed rage was leaking. Maybe he should see a therapist about it. Nah, he would send his therapist to therapy. He sunk into the couch to lose his anger in comfort. He was grown in church and was taught about many values of life. He could see that the world for being a shitty place it was. He was a single orphan in a small town. But not anymore. He had power, more power than any could hope for, and he will change this damned world. He could rebuild it. Ha, Mark sighed but froze before he turned to Zion. Wait, you didn't think of nuking us first, did you? I did, Zion answered, making Mark fall back. I wanted to, but then I decided against it. It's like killing an ant colony when one bites you. Thank God, Mark praised. People don't realize how much luck they had to have not get nuked by a guy who just wanted to nuke the humanity. Zion always had a thought that humans were better extinct, but he had seen potential after knowing the whole story. He might not know what the future holds, but he had seen hope for humanity and all others. You should thank him for me taking over, Zion said. Mark just shook his head. Yes, but how are you going to change the world? You can't rule like a tyrant. You can't take people's freedom away. Zion. People are individual and unique in their own right. All of them won't conform to society's norm. There are people who are confused and still struggling. That's why I will be writing the law that will include all of them as a neutral perspective, Zion stated. I am going to conform society in my vision and towards the right path. Things will change and people will struggle, but they will adapt. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But they will rebel, they will fight. Let them. Let them fight a wall that cannot be shaken like a democracy's paper-thin values. Let them fight an absolute reign. It not freedom then, Zion. It will be a planet-sized prison. Freedom is nothing but an illusion, Mark. Freedom is a circle, and rules are its border. You have freedom within those border. All I am saying is don't engage before marriage, don't kill a child because you are dumb, don't start a war because of your greed, and faith is not a reason to murder. But do you truly think that you can control 7 billion people? No, I can't. People will retaliate against me and my rules. Many will rise, but may my throne be taken by a better man, or woman, I don't care. But until then I will draw the circle and have your freedom within. I don't know about this, Zion. Controlling the whole planet and its people is more than daunting task for a single individual. I can't even comprehend it. You don't need to, Mark. Whatever, I am too simple for this political struggle and monarchy. Mark got up from the couch ready to leave for his work. I still got work to do at the factory. He didn't want to think of world's problem. He was a simple man. Zion just gave a nod and didn't say more. Mark stopped for a moment and turned to Zion. Welcome home, Zion. Mark smiled as he watched Zion squirm uncomfortably and didn't answer. He then put his sandals and walked out. Zion looked at the familiar empty house and closed his eyes to sleep. He felt safe and at ease. He couldn't sleep much in Metropolis. He always felt like a gelatin was hanging on his head when he slept. Not the best of ways to sleep. Finally he let down his guard and slept peacefully. While our little protagonist was taking his well-needed nap, the world, more like the hierarchy of world, presidents, generals, rich businessmen, and the hidden power all gathered in their own circle to discuss their situation. They tried to think of ways to secure themselves and their riches, yet they found no way to escape the planet-wide siege. In the United Nations General Assembly, emergency sessions were convened through Skype, with representatives from every nation voicing their concerns and debating possible courses of action. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of anxiety and determination, as diplomats sought to forge a unified front in the face of an unprecedented threat. Simultaneously, intelligence agencies worked around the clock to gather as much information as possible about Nyan and his forces. Satellite surveillance, cyber espionage, and covert operations were all deployed in an effort to penetrate the veil of secrecy surrounding the enigmatic invader. But it was all for naught, as ZAI had already shown that he was able to control their networks. Meanwhile, military strategists grappled with the sobering reality that their most potent weapons were rendered impotent against Nyan's advanced technology. He not only had locked down or destroyed their potent weapons, but he also controlled their nukes. In laboratories and research facilities, scientists raced against time to analyze data collected from previous encounters with Nyan and his minions. Every piece of information, no matter how small, was scrutinized in the hopes of uncovering a weakness that could be exploited in the coming confrontation. Civilian populations, gripped by fear and uncertainty, looked to their leaders for guidance and reassurance. Emergency preparedness drills were conducted in cities around the world, while citizens stocked up on supplies and made plans to seek shelter in the event of an attack. NGOs and humanitarian organizations mobilized to provide aid and support to those most vulnerable to the coming storm. The world prepared for the tides of change and a new rule of power. Chapter 57. 57. Changes. Do I look good? Zion asked. It looks good, Mark replied. I am asking if it looks good on me, Zion clarified. It does, Mark answered with a smile. Zion was wearing his new tuxedo, a brand new one after his old one got obliterated in the fight. This one was better and classier. It was a new full black tuxedo with a white inner shirt. The suit fit his stature and gave off a subtle elegance. He looked ready as a man, ready to move forward, to lead. It is time for me to depart, Zion stated. I know you've got plans, but don't pull the trigger when someone annoys you, Mark advised. I will try not to accuse them of their crimes, Zion stated, his face stoic. Just don't be hard on them, Mark repeated. We are all humans, we all make mistakes. Just take it easy, guide them like a shepherd, not command them like a dictator. But I am a dictator, I am their ruler, Zion answered. Then should I bow, your majesty? Mark mocked, performing a polite bow like a subject to his king. I am still Mark, and I like you calling me majesty, Zion said with his head lifted haughtily. Buzz off, Mark gave Zion a playful kick, which he dodged. Zion straightened his coat. Your majesty will be leaving now, Mark. Zion opened the door, ready to leave. Not going to say anything to the pastor? Mark asked. Zion paused but didn't turn. I will speak later. Zion, for the last few days, had been avoiding meeting his dad. The man scared him, he admitted. He would rather face a battle with all of Apocalypse forces than have the talk. The man would instantly know that he was playing around in Metropolis, and he still didn't know how he did that. He always figured that Zion was up to no good, but he had been visiting the orphanage and the church. The place was fully changed, unrecognizable. The orphanage was freshly painted, with new roofs. The restrooms were repaired, and new beds were brought for the children, comfier ones. The kids liked the change and welcomed his presence, but Zion was never good with kids. He couldn't handle their energy. The church grounds were cleaned, and the benches were repainted. The broken window, unattended for as long as he could remember, was finally fixed. They also repainted the whole thing and changed those rotting benches and doors. Even though people helped the church and orphanage, it was still lacking funds. Even when the funds arrived, the pastor would rather use those for the children, to take care of their needs. He always said, "God is in our hearts, it is better for the children to be happy than be sad. Adults can manage." Mark had done a good job with all that with the money that was sent. The pastor was still suspicious. "See you later, Mark," Zion glitched out. Mark stood near the door as it closed, watching as the space mended itself. He still couldn't believe the things his friend could do. He always knew that Zion was intelligent, but the guy had always been lazy without a purpose. Now he had one. The world had gathered today to watch the world change. A new power. A new beginning. A new path. A new history being written. The UN had gathered with all those that led. Every substantial figure for the world was gathered in a single room. They were all waiting for the new power to appear. They had done all they could to gather as much information on him, but all they could deduce was undetectable, at least with their military power. Some had even contacted the vigilantes, yet all had taken a back seat at the event. They all knew of the corruptions they were fighting against and they wished to see a change. However, most didn't bother because of Superman's statement. Superman was a substantial figure among the vigilantes. He was a symbol of heroism, and the man had decided to see what would happen. And outside the UN Council, many had gathered. From civilians, reporters, and military personnel to significant superheroes, such as Batman, Superman, Flash, Arrow, Black Canary, Ghostmaker, and many others, had gathered. They were all here, ready for battle if the situation warranted. Superman was floating above to display his presence and calm the populace. Batman, Flash, Arrow, and Black Canary had gathered together. Ghostmaker did reveal his presence to Batman, but nothing more. The other vigilantes were hiding or in their normal mode among the crowd. The UN Council was telecasting the meeting for the day, as the world needed to know of their new ruler. This was, of course, made at Zion's request when he had given them his schedule for the meeting. The anticipation hung in the air as the time for his arrival neared and the clock ticked to 11. A few alarms went off to show that the time was up and Zion glitched into existence on the central podium, surrounded by seating for representatives from each country. Zion looked around the grand chamber adorned with flags representing all nations, arranged in a semicircular fashion. The room was spacious, with a high ceiling and elegant decor, reflecting the diplomatic significance of the space. The atmosphere was one of solemnity and purpose. The leaders sat straight at Zion's appearance, yet none stood to greet him. Zion didn't mind, nor did he care. These people were of no significance to him. Nothing but failed experiments that would guide him toward the correct path. Zion pulled the chair and took his seat. He tapped the mic to check if it was working and spoke. "Hello, nice to meet you, mannerless people," Zion stated, his bionic voice sarcastic. The humans who were watching felt a slight fear at the statement. They felt their stomachs sink. They were afraid that they were going to get eliminated for not greeting someone who was trying to take over the planet. "It was nice of you to stand and greet your now king," Zion continued. "At least your parents thought you had manners." At Heavenfield, Mark facepalmed at the statement. He could clearly see that Zion was getting into the role of a ruler. The guy who always complained about the king fearing his subjects on K-drama was a king now. "Good for you. Now let us get to the subject of transition of political power. I am your new ruler as stated before, and you will be listening to me from today onward. I hope there is no thought of resistance as I do not want bloodshed. Now you may ask any questions you have." The leader sat silent for a moment, not wanting to be the first to pose a question. Finally, after a moment, the current president pressed the mic before him. The man looked confident as he began to speak. "What legitimacy? No manners? Get up from your seat when you are speaking to your king," Zion spoke in an emotionless voice. The president froze. He now truly felt threatened for some reason. He knew he had power and the person before him was but a single person, yet he didn't feel safe. He swallowed as he sat, not knowing what to do. "Stand up if you wish to speak," Zion commanded. The president sat there, his mouth shut. But someone else stood up before him and asked the question. It was the UK's president. He was sitting nearby. "May I speak?" he asked politely. "You can," Zion answered. "Take your seat." The president sat back and spoke into the mic. "What legitimacy do you claim for your authority, and how do you justify circumventing established democratic processes?" He asked his question, and due to the advanced translation installed in the devices, the other presidents understood the question. They all turned to Zion, waiting for his answer. Zion shifted in his position and placed his leg on the table. "What gives you the right to ask the question? Is it your presidency or the representative of the people?" "I am asking this as the representative of the people," the president replied. "Okay," Zion nodded. "I will answer this for you all. So listen up. Your system is garbage, and that is more than enough reason to warrant the shift of power. Your inadequacy at your job has not only drained blood from the poor but also favored the rich. Your system is corrupted and rigged. You favor those you think are close and have made all the worst mistakes without attempting to change. You fight for limited land and cause war for your greed and destroy heritage and culture. I think that is enough of an answer," Zion asked at the end. The president didn't know what to say to that. How could he refute what he knew was correct? He stayed silent instead of speaking. "Okay, next question. Who are you exactly, and what gives you the authority to make these drastic changes?" Another president stood up. I am Nyan, and my origins will be kept safe for your protection. I come from an advanced race and am here to keep you safe due to some opposing powers that will kill all of you without a thought, Zion answered without revealing too much. Was it your people who fought in the skies of Metropolis? The president continued. Zion nodded. Yes, we were preventing an invasion. Will you be revealing their identity? He asked. Not yet, Zion answered. Next question. The man stopped his questions as he wasn't getting any answers. Who appointed or empowered you to unilaterally make decisions on behalf of the entire population? This time it was a female. The woman looked to be in her 40s as she stood up to speak. You can take your seat after asking the question. I just need to know which one of you is speaking, Zion said before answering the question. As for your question, I would say God, the one and only. All of you have walked away from him. Zion's answer stunned them, but they recovered quickly. Who is this God you speak of? Another asked. You know him well, Zion answered. He goes by the name Jehovah. The presence. Of course this stunk some people of power. Not everyone wanted to accept that a spaceman knew of their God. Their faith retaliated, but they could do nothing, and they didn't have many arguments, as most of the presidents were Christians. Now to the next question, Zion spoke, ending the conversation. This time, another stood up. How will you respond to opposition or resistance to your rule, both domestically and internationally? I will listen to why they oppose my rule, and if it aligns with my morals and ideals, we can have a conversation on how to change it. If not, and you are clearly annoyed because something stupid thing you want to do is being obstructed, I will show you what it means to see right, Zion answered. Is there room for negotiation or compromise in your vision for the future, or is it non-negotiable? Some I would negotiate, and others I won't. Like this, the questions continued. Zion answered all those he could and explained his intent. He always replied with authority and showed his dominance. The presidents listened without causing any mess and asked their questions taking turns. This continued for hours before they ended their questions. Zion also revealed his intent to rewrite their system. But the process would be gradual to not confuse the populace. This would involve many rewrites of laws, governance, and etc. Though some laws will be implemented immediately, such as the cancellation of student debt, free education for all, illegalization of abortion, and increasing career openings for space exploration. Since the questions are over, let me leave with a final announcement, Zion stated, straightening and sitting upright. I am now your ruler, and don't think for a moment that you could threaten me with your puny little weapons and all the missiles. Even your nukes are useless against me. I may have come alone, but I am far more powerful than you could imagine. Zion snapped, and tens of people fell through glitched space. They all were geared with many weapons and were of different origins. They were all mercenaries or villains who had been hired, or were stupid enough, to try to kill him. They were hired by different people, and he knew who they were. I will meet all those who hired these idiots tomorrow personally, Zion stated as he glitched out. Chapter 58. 58, Cause. Guardians. Hal Jordan looked up at the own Guardians. The short tall blue humanoids beings looked down on Green Lantern Hal Jordan. Their eyes held an otherworldly wisdom. They were the self-appointed guardians of the universe, believed to the first intelligent species of the universe. The ones that lead to keep peace across the universe. Hal Jordan, we were expecting your arrival, one of the leading heads spoke. Then you should know why I am here. Hal looked at them all, his head turning. Who was it that attacked Earth? Why is he targeting it? He questioned. The Guardians remained silent for a moment before one of them spoke. We will answer your question, but we would like you to answer our question. What is it? Hal asked. The OWN waved as the will created a construct of a nightmarish creature, one that Green Lantern recognized. The burning creature that invoked an instinctual horror in Green Lantern's mind. We would like to know where this being is? Guardian asked. On Earth, Hal answered. What is he? I have never met one like him. They are the ancestors of who you would call Martians, originating from the Mars, your sister planet. They were supposed to not be one in existence as they have evolved, gotten better. This one's existence is rare and a danger to the peace of the universe. Hal looked at the frightening being. He somehow got the gist that they were dangerous as he had first-hand experience on their strength. The guy was powerful than any he had met and he had fought 4 of them without breaking much sweat. But, why is he dangerous? Hal questioned. The Guardians looked at each other, conversing psychically before one answered Hal Jordan's question. They are what we used to call inferno. They are cataclysmic. Disaster. Fire, birth. The construct changed and displayed an eldritch horror of burning Martians spawning. The psychic suffering of others combined with the physical condition of the inferno allows them to asexually reproduce. As a species, they exist to cause suffering and burn and breed. Nothing more. This, Hal felt true horror. The implications were clear to him. If this being, this horror, wasn't confined, the Earth, a place filled with suffering would become a breeding house for the inferno. We would like you to bring him to us, Guardian spoke. Take the best of the lanterns in case he retaliate. Okay, Hal agreed. He was about to turn to leave, but he remembered why he was here. About my question? We will have that conversation after the threat is dealt with, the Guardian told. Okay, Hal nodded and took his leave. The lanterns can't contain an inferno, one of the Guardians spoke up. They are not equipped to engage. They have, the ring is powerful enough, other responded. We can always intervene in case things deviate, another suggested. Let us leave this to the lanterns for now. The inferno didn't seem aggressive like his brethren, but we need to know if more exists. Diana, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, mother. Diana now stood outside the Temple of the Gods. She was here to converse with the gods of Olympus. She was out of her armor and was wearing a normal dress. She had cleaned herself to be here, to be present before the gods, Aphrodite to be exact. She left her mother and walked into the temple. The long corridor had the depictions of many gods and Titan fall, telling the glorious history of Olympians and their shenanigans. These one who were more empathized were the 12 Olympians. Diana carried the offering that she would present today to the gods. She arrived at the altar of the gods. This room contained 12 altars, each for the 12 major gods of Olympus. She placed one offering at each altar, to each god. Zeus was offered wine and a crown she had forged, Hera was offered lilies, honey and milk she had gathered, Poseidon was offered a shark she had hunted herself, Demeter was offered wheat, Athena was offered olive oil, Apollo laurel leaves and sunflower, Artemis honey and fruits, Ares blood of Minotaur, Aphrodite perfumes and oil, Hephaestus jewelry and incense, Hermes a painting and Dionysus wine and grapes. She placed all the offering and knelt in the center of the altars to pray to her gods. Gods of Olympus, hear my words and grant me your audience. I come before you seeking knowledge. I seek your wisdom and guidance. She bowed her head, her fist clenched. Zeus, father of gods, I beseech you to reveal to me the secret of Darkseid's intention. Hera, queen of Olympus, protector of the family, lend me your wisdom and foresight. Athena, goddess of strategy and warfare, grant me the knowledge and guide my mind. Diana prayed to all the god, asking for their audience. She kept her head low as she finished her request. She waited in trepidation, waiting for the gods to answer. As the echoes of her prayer faded into silence, a stirring of divine energy filled the air. The statues of the gods seemed to come alive, their eyes glowing with otherworldly light as they consider her plea. A voice, soft yet resonant, filled the chamber, speaking with the authority of the divine. The statue of a man with feathery wings on his legs lit up. Its eyes looked down at Diana. The messenger of gods was now gracing the altar with his presence. Daughter of Themyscira, your words have reached the ear of the gods, and we have heard your plea. To grant you the knowledge you seek, an offering should be made. An exchange, a trade. Diana didn't look up. She knew that she would need to make sacrifices when she requested a meeting with the gods. She was prepared. What do I need to do? She asked. Bring us the one that fought the foe, one that who wields the spear of destiny. Bring him before us and you may receive the knowledge you seek. Hermes spoke, his voice commanding. Diana looked up. She couldn't understand why they would demand the person who stopped the threat. She wanted explanation, but Hermes cut her off. Do not question the god's intentions. Daughter of Themyscira, this is not a request but an order. With that the presence of Hermes vanished from the altar, leaving Diana to sit in silence. The change of power didn't affect the people much as most would think. Zion had taken control but he had not explicitly changed the system. He had let the leader keep their rule as they were. He understood that sudden change would cause trouble and invoke people to retaliate. At the same time he was not going to let the wrongs go. He was a singular force. He was a deterrent with enough power to make the leader bend the knee, but he didn't have the force to enforce his laws. The mechmorphs were something that unique to this universe and they were a peaceful species. He would keep them safe as their creator. They were not his slave but subjects to be cared for. So, he did the best of his situation. He used his deterring power to make slight changes, one that wouldn't cause much retaliation, one that goes under the radar. He was changing the world and when people realize that it has been changed, the new will be their norm. But that didn't mean some didn't retaliate. The countries had withdrawn their forces from other countries under his order, such as U.S. Army from Iraq, which lead the terrorist group to run wild and take hostages. They threatened to have the towns they controlled to be given independence. This caused many steering and many turned to Nyan to see what his answer was. Zion was annoyed because he was watching a movie with Mark when the news arrived. Mark was panicked and gave ideas to save the hostage. But Zion called to one of his associates, the fastest man alive, the Flash. It took 1 minute to solve the problem as that was all it took to convince Barry to intervene. He then called another number, connecting to Kara. He asked her to go and protect the civilians before he arrived. Zion as the higher power guaranteed that his intervention would cause problem. And you know what happened. Flash captured all the terrorists, all of them. No one was left free and all of them knelt, hundreds of them, before the camera that they used to show hostages. Kara was present to protect and give security to the hostages. ZAI immediately pulled up all the crimes of the terrorist after they were subdued. Zion was revolted. Zion glitched and the billboards and news channel displayed the scene. Hello everyone, I am Nyan as you all know. Zion was back in his outfit, his visor black. I am responding to the hostage situation. Zion turned the camera and showed the hundreds of restrained terrorists. These are the ones that demanded independence by taking hostages. Zion spoke from the background. But they have all been captured. Zion turned the camera to the Flash and Kara. You should congratulate these heroes who answered my call for help. They have not only saved and protected the hostages, but also captured these men. I would like to give my thanks, Flash and Supergirl. Zion turned it to the terrorists. Now to you guys, what's your problem? What's the point? Zion waited for someone to answer but they didn't show any reaction. Then he remembered that the translation was not turned on. Okay, now it's on. You understand me? Zion asked and they reacted. Okay, let's return back to the question. Why are you doing all this? All this horror? What's the point of it all? Aren't they all humans? You are all the same. Zion could see that they wanted to. He removed the gag on the guy near him and looked him in the eyes. The man looked angry. They have come to infect our tradition. You come to force your belief on us. You kidding me? You killed children and raped women, terrorized families, committed genocide. All of you are no better than what you say others are doing to you. Now tell me who gave you the right to do all this? Zion asked. They are lesser. We are the chosen of God. Those that believe otherwise are lesser, he spoke back. Zion wanted to smack him and he did. A God who tells you to kill another because he believes in another is no God. All life is sacred. I am annoyed. Do not push your faith on another. If you have disagreement, debate, try to solve it civilized. Zion kicked the guy. Idiots. Zion was pissed off as he could see all their crimes. All that was proudly telecast. He had pages on each and every one of them and he had the right to decide their crime. All of you have chosen to take life, to infringe on others' rights. So I shall do the same. All of you shall be executed before the mass now. I am a believer but I got no mercy for you. Zion turned waved his hand, and fire ignited on all of them. Flash tried to save them but the flame moved as if they were alive and burned all. Even the wind and water couldn't extinguish the flames of suffering and hate. The cries of horror and pain and suffering echoed across the countries, birthing a new fear in all that watched. They saw what the being on the highest order could do and what he would do. Kara didn't move to even help. She watched them all burn without a waver in her heart. She had learned of horrors that humans committed with she learned of Earth and she didn't have pity for them. She stood behind Zion on this execution. Zion turned back to the camera. The only reason some of you are left alive is because I can kill you anytime I want. Do not even think for a moment you hold power to escape my grasp. I am coming for all of you, every single one of you. And Gotham is first on my list. Zion closed the broadcast with that statement. Chapter 59. 59, Gotham. Gotham. Gotham is a black page. Gotham is a black page you write on white font. It is the first line of the last story you'll ever write. Gotham. A city of contradictions. A place where beauty and brutality exist side by side. Where the gleaming facades of wealth and power hide the rot that lies beneath. Gotham is dark, gritty, corrupt. A city plagued by crime, poverty, and urban decay. It is a reflection of the worst aspects of a modern city, with its skyline dominated by looming skyscrapers and smog, and its streets filled with crime and violence. Despite its outward appearance of modernity, Gotham is rife with hidden corruption and sinister secrets lurking beneath the surface. Despite its pervasive darkness, for every criminal that stalks these streets, there are 100 more who dare to dream of a better tomorrow. For every act of cruelty, there are countless acts of kindness and compassion that go unnoticed. Gotham may be a city that breeds darkness, but it is also a city that nurtures hope. A city of resilience and hope, with its citizens banding together in the face of adversity and its heroes tirelessly fighting to make it a better place. As was the founder's vision, Pinckney saw his designs as an organic whole, almost a living being that would itself fight against evil. Gargoyles to frighten people onto the path of righteousness, rounded edges to confuse malevolent beings, thick walls to lock in virtue. It also had many elevated walkways, with some buildings connected to each other in such a way as they could not stand alone. Yet now, the city was the breeding ground for crime. But I refuse to believe that Gotham is beyond redemption. I refuse to accept that darkness will always triumph over light. Will you join my purpose? Yours truly, Zion. Meet you at the location. This was the letter Batman received that night after Zion's announcement. He had watched the whole telecast. He saw Zion's anger and power. Zion, a force unequaled, a power undefeated, even by Superman, a problem he couldn't solve. A boy from nowhere had grown to a powerhouse that governed the world in a matter of a month. Sometimes he wished he had not been so cautious. He had been too cautious, too tight. He wished he had taken the guy down, but he doubted he was capable. The boy had left crumbs for him to follow. Keep his wits about him. The singularity. One who knows of the future of this world. This made him want to know the secrets of that night, where Batman was born. However, the results were not bad as he thought they would be. The wars around the world had ended. A silent peace was brought. The world was now focused on him, his power and how to defeat this new order. The forces hidden would not stop, but their ignorance had already cost them of their freedom. As Batman, he saw Gotham gone silent, of fear and a different silence. Expectant silence mostly from those that hoped. The criminals were silent. Too silent. They were preparing to fight or die. While some escaped, while some understood that the force was not to be trifled with, that this was not Batman, not human. Nyan was a different. He cared not much for humans. He cared not for the government or rules. He now controlled it all. He was above law, he was above rules. His powers still unexplained, his watch a mystery, an unexplainable technology. Batman was still forming a plan in case Zion turned dark. But he could see no light to that problem and today he would meet back. Not with the boy who wanted money, but the force that governed the world. He was to meet with Nyan. Batman stood at the high building, the winds ruffling his cape, the dark city below him. The gargoyles hid his figure in the darkness. Gotham silent, peaceful. I can't say that I don't like some quiet. This is different, Alfred. This is a silence of fear, Batman replied. Isn't that your motto? Batman stayed silent. You dress as a bat to invoke fear, a fear similar. A bionic voice spoke, leaving the sentence incomplete. Batman turned his head slightly, unflinched. You are here. I am, Zion answered as he walked from the shadow. He stood next to Batman at the edge, his hand on the gargoyles and looking down at the city and its people. The neon signs lit up the dark city in its light. People walking about with their hands to themselves, guarded, always in light. The people here were different, harder, stronger, more hopeful. A cursed city indeed, Nyan remarked. Batman remained silent. No question. Zion turned to Batman. The Dark Knight has no questions? Suspicious. Batman glared at Zion. No wait, that was how he always looks. His lips drew thin, his eyes gazing deeply. Batman had question, but he need not ask them. Zion would answer it himself. His evaluation made him believe so. Zion always told the truth, but never the whole truth. Zion tilted his head, his visor displaying his disappointment. Unearned. Okay, let's go, Zion stated as he flicked his wrist. To the location a frame appeared on the space, blurring what's on the other side. This was Zion's new mode of transport he calls the door. A TVS time door. Shall we? Zion gestured to the door. Batman grunted before walking through. He felt the spatial displacement and his ears ring at the pressure difference. His face felt the cold breeze and tasted the salt on the wind. They were now standing opposite the sea, opposed to a large floating ice that was the iceberg lounge. Zion appeared through the door and kept walking toward the iceberg. He crossed the bridge and stopped before the bouncer who stood menacingly. He smiled at the bouncer. The bouncer glared back in full volume, his eyes not shaking in fear as one would expect. He just folded his arms and flexed his big muscles. It didn't help that Zion was a head shorter than the man. Zion was expecting him to move the minute he showed up. After all, he was the real thing in flesh. I am here to meet a flightless bird. Zion spoke, not knowing what to do. Huff, your outfit is really good. Nearly seems legit, bouncer stated as he scanned Zion top to bottom. Nice try but not today, mate. If you don't want to get killed, leave now. The bouncer gestured to the other side and saw 3 people in tuxedo knocked out to the side. Their suits looked very similar to the suit he wore this morning, and the helmet was nearly looked legit, but it was nearly advanced as his. You kidding? Zion was flabbergasted that someone would mimic him, who had that much gut. He then turned to the shadows. How much gut do Gotham have? Batman walked out the shadow and the bouncer took a step back in fear. Move. That was all he stated before the bouncer backed away. Nyan was a new force that criminals of Gotham don't understand. But Batman was their nightmare. He had instilled such fear that they feared moving shadows in the night. Zion looking at the scared bouncer and was annoyed. So, he picked him up with telekinesis and flung him into the sea. Ha! He scoffed as he adjusted his cuff and walked into the iceberg lounge. Batman stayed silent as he followed Zion like a shadow, and all the crooks who saw them moved away and hid. Some even ran out the lounge. Zion walked into the hall uninterrupted, where a large artificial pool of penguins and seals with a small iceberg floating in the middle. The dinner an Antarctic-themed, a ship-themed dance floor and tuxedo-clad jazz band. The minute Zion and Batman stepped in, the floor went silent. All eyes, criminal, looked at Batman with vengeance. Then their eyes turned to the guy next. Their brains took time to process, and when it came to conclusion of this new person, most turned their head avoid contact. Zion looked at all the familiar faces. Two-Face, Black Mask, Rupert Thorne, Riddler, Mad Hatter, even dancing Harley Quinn. Zion looked up to the second floor and saw Penguin in his private lounge. His visor smiled. Come down, flyless bird, Zion commanded. On a G greater than over equals to asterisk. Oh, I would rather speak to all of you at once than go one by one. Penguin didn't look exactly scared. A bit arrogant. He didn't seem to be moving as his 3 assistants pulled 3 freezing guns. So a bird wants to fight? Zion took a step forward. Flames bursting forth from him. A claw formed from the flamed and ripped the wall between Penguin and his death like paper. The trio of assistants tried to use the freeze gun to fight the flame. However, the telekinesis was faster. The guns were atomized and 3 were merged with the wall. Zion put his hands in his pocket and taped the floor lightly, instantly causing all that stood to kneel. Zion was putting the minor percentage of mind on there. The difference of weight came down like a dragon's fear. They all felt suffocated as if they were being chalked. A breath of air was a struggled. Their ears rung, their bodies shivered, and some even fainted, foaming. Zion turned back to Penguin. The fat short man with Pinocchio nose was burned, but he was alive. He pulled him out of his cottage and hanged him before him. Zion leaned his head and looked into Penguin's eyes as his visor displayed an amicable smile. Be welcoming, I am here as a guest. Nyan bionic voice rung in each crook's head. He straightened and walked around the struggling bird. He met the eyes of every single one. He was taking account, taking a bit to consider kill them all here or not. It was a hard choice. Not only Mark scolded him for killing those terrorists, that guy had lectured him for a whole hour before he was let go. He forgot that Mark would be watching. Then he saw people condemning him for telecasting such horrifying scene and scaring their children. He couldn't do anything about the murderous intent he had when being Nyaz. It a built-in function of the burning Martians. Burning Martians live for terror. They are embodiment of suffering and anguish, and Nyaz was his humongosaur. It was his Superman. His plot armor. It was his powerful transformation with many added ability. I know all your crimes, I know of every single thing you have done, and my instinct says to burn you all alive, Nyan stated as he walked around the hall, looking at the struggling crooks. But not today. A good brother of mine had asked me to forgive, to give you maggots a chance. So, what you say? Zion stopped as all the crooks got lifted by their neck. They clawed their neck to be released from the grip, but not one could shatter the TK hold. Do you desire freedom of choice or hell's inferno? He asked as all struggled to breath. Not going to give me answer? He questioned while not allowing them to speak. The crooks couldn't even breath. Much could they answer him. Nyan, Batman spoke, his voice grim. Let them down. No one needed to point. Batman was ready to fight. Okay. Nyan released them. The crooks fell to the floor gasping for air as they felt their ability to breath return. They had felt a true horror of death grazing them as their body demanded for air to live on. It will be something that will be engraved in their mind. Death was not something trifle to be forgotten. I want you all surrendered in GCPD tomorrow morning, but I hope you all don't surrender easily, Nyan stated with excited tone. He was truly enjoying this. I hope you fight the authority. I very much like squashing bugs. The criminals couldn't see, but they felt in their senses. This was a game to this guy. A sadistic game where they would be the one to lose. Zion turned from them and walked out of the iceberg lounge, leaving the criminals sprawled around. Zion arrived out exactly when the bouncer was walking towards them, shivering in cold. Zion caught him with his telekinesis and threw him again. You were about to kill them, Batman spoke as he strode behind Zion. Was I Pennyworth? Zion asked. Probably, sir. Probably, Zion replied as another door opened. I am here to clean the city of its rats, and if the rats are going to give me trouble, I would rather end them now than wait for them to breed and bite back, Zion stated as he walked through. Batman followed, and they both arrived before a gothic metal gate that came straight out of horror movie. Above the gate was the metal letter spelling, Arkham Asylum. Chapter 60. 60, Arkham. The House of Horror. The breeding ground for chaos. The party house of the criminally insane. Contained within its walls were the not-so-normal. The ones that Gotham never wanted to see the light of the day. Those who struck fear into civilians with just their names. Those who not created immense horror and feared no Batman. But not all confined within chose their path. Some were just simply insane. Nyan and Batman walked through the dark and eerie garden of the gothic structure that loomed in the shadows. Many gargoyles sat high above, gazing malevolently below, light flickering in and out, barred windows keeping the desperate in and tall, sharp towers giving it an unwelcoming feeling. Nyan led Batman through the familiar atmosphere. This place is too gloomy, Nyan began. And you wonder why they keep breaking out. Even a normal person would go mad here. Gotham really needs a makeover. It's too dark to give birth to light. Nyan turned to Batman. Well, except for a few, of course. Gotham is not entirely dark, Batman stated as he continued walking. Says the Dark Knight. Nyan remarked with irony. It is true, but you are different. Gotham is a bit difficult, but it could be better. What are you planning, Nyan? Batman questioned, his gaze turning to Nyan. He couldn't see his face, but he could discern from the micro-expressions. Nyan was speaking like someone with a goal in mind, trying to guide him toward the same end. And he didn't like that. Nothing much, just a bit of reconstruction, Nyan shrugged and kept walking. Batman glared as he followed. Explain. Nyan didn't turn, but he answered. As I said, this city is too dark. I want to change it from the foundation. I want to rebuild it from scratch into a better city. A city full of opportunity and hope. A show of power, Batman commented, not easily fooled. At this stage, Nyan was only a singular force. Even though the government feared him for his powers, they wouldn't sit still. Those at the top had held too much power for too long. They wouldn't let anyone dethrone them. Nyan also hadn't tightened his grip on the laws, leaving enough loose ends for them to exploit. They were all biding their time, gathering genius minds to take him down. Toppling him would give them control of the entire planet, one that will be accepted by people and the veil will be lifted forever. A singular force, but also the biggest target. Nyan smiled. Kind of. It won't be easy, Batman replied. It never is. Change is always opposed, for better or worse. But I wanted to talk to you about it. I thought you might resist change, be a bit reluctant to be controlled, Nyan stated his concern. All I fight for is the peace of the city, to end crime, Batman said. I don't care if it's me or someone else who achieves it. Yet you can't end crime, Batman. But you can control it, Nyan said as they arrived before the entrance to Arkham. So, you can continue running in your Halloween costume. Two people were waiting for them. One female and one male. The woman had fair skin and brown hair tied in a bun. She wore a professional white coat and held a white tablet in her hand. Her eyes showed determination and resilience. The man had a stern expression as he stood next to her, with short-cropped gray hair and a mustache. He wore his police jacket over his normal shirt and jeans. Dark circles under his eyes and a wrinkled forehead suggested he frowned too much. Thank you for waiting, Dr. Young and Commissioner Gordon. Nyan extended his hand to Dr. Young. Dr. Young shook it with a polite smile, and Commissioner Gordon just gave a firm shake without a word. Nyan didn't mind their behavior. They were still figuring out how to treat him. It's not every day they meet the man at the top. I think we better finish what I came for. I don't want to waste time, Nyan stated as he walked through the open door. The reception was normal. There was a receptionist sitting at her computer, a few guards and nurses walking around. The whole place was brightly lit with many chairs for people to rest. He even saw a few patients happily having a conversation. Nyan had expected a more deserted and gloomy place. This way, sir, Dr. Young stated as she gestured to the elevator. Nyan followed her into the elevator with Gordon and Batman. The doctor then flashed a card and pressed the button for the lower floor. The dangerous ones were kept underground for better security, Dr. Young stated. The elevator smoothly arrived at a floor below, and Dr. Young took the lead. The people you are here for are on this floor, Dr. Young stated as she looked at her tablet. What about the floor below? Nyan asked, but then he realized. No need, I know. Dr. Young turned but didn't speak, so Nyan continued. I think I could cure most, if not all, of them here of their fractured minds. The human psyche is really weak, easily broken with enough stress. But I can't say that for all. Dr. Young turned, seeming reluctant to speak. You can ask your questions, Dr. Young, Nyan stated. I won't take offense when someone seeks knowledge. Thank you, sir, Dr. Young replied before asking her question. Does your species deal with psychology? Mine? Yes, all of us are telepaths. Our minds are always touching another's, but of course, we are not exempt from crimes. However, we easily catch the criminal. It's not so easy to hide when your mind is literally connected to everyone around you, Nyan answered. Are all of you part of a hive mind? Dr. Young inquired. No, we are just partially connected, Nyan replied. So, you think you can cure people here of their problems? Dr. Young asked. I can, Nyan answered. The mind is like an empty glass. You become what you fill it with or when it breaks from all that was pushed inside. I should be able to remove it or shall I say, restore it to default. Would you mind giving a demonstration? Dr. Young asked. Her goal was to help the patients in Arkham Asylum. Her determination to this cause gave her strength to look into the abyss. I don't mind, Nyan answered. But let's finish my business. Okay, Dr. Young agreed and led them through the hall. Nyan had already seen a few people he recognized in the cells that had passed. Calendar Man, Scarecrow, and some others. The cells were separated by a distance to keep them isolated. But the one he was here for was in a specialized cell. Nyan could already feel the cold seeping from the distance. They finally arrived at the cell of the wanted person, Dr. Victor Fries, or Mr. Freeze. His whole cell was covered in ice, with its temperature below freezing. The man could not survive in room temperature. But Nyan was not here for the villain but the genius cryogenist. It's nice to meet you, Dr. Fries, Nyan spoke, drawing the man's attention from carving ice. The blue man turned to glance at his visitors. He scanned each face but failed to recognize Nyan. His cell didn't have a TV, not that he was not allowed to, but for security reasons. Who are you? Dr. Fries asked, recognizing that Batman had accompanied the small man. I am Nyan, currently the governor of Earth, Nyan stated. And I am here to make an offer. Governor of Earth? Sure that you are not one of us. Freeze spoke with sarcasm. Well, I am. You can ask these three, Nyan pointed to Batman. Victor turned to Batman, the man he trusted to tell the truth. He is, Batman answered. Fine. What is it that you want? Victor asked. Easy, you working for me, Nyan stated. What do I get in return? Victor asked. Freedom, money, and a high-tech lab to continue your research, Nyan answered. Good offer, but what's the catch? Victor was an intelligent man. Actually, nothing much. You will probably assist me in my research and exploration. Your biology allows you to survive in places where life would not, Nyan explained, and I would like a man like yourself on the right side for once. Victor remained silent, contemplating the offer. The offer was too good to be true, but if he would get funding to continue his research, then he was more than willing to accept. He needed to cure his wife. There was no more important goal. Well, I might as well add a cherry on top, Nyan spoke. I can cure your wife, Nora. I have the technology to do so. Victor looked at Nyan for any signs of falsehood, but he couldn't see his face. But even with his suspicion, he decided. I trust that you will keep your word, Victor replied. Nyan smiled. Good. He then turned to Dr. Young. You can return his suit to him. I will remove him from your hands. He then turned to Victor. I will come back after I meet with the other person I came to meet. Victor nodded. Dr. Young tapped on her tablet and instructed the nurse and guard through the comms. She then guided the trio further into the facility. Nyan saw Joker and Killer Croc during this part of the walk. Joker was, of course, frantic when he saw Batman and went into his usual dialogue, but Croc was silent. Then they arrived at their location. Nyan looked in and saw a green-skinned woman in her hospital clothes just lying on her bed, swirling her red hair. Her seductive figure was visible even through the loose clothes. Nyan leaned and knocked on the glass. She turned her head and looked at the visitors with disdain. What do I owe the pleasure, Batman? Batman didn't answer her. I am here to talk. Nyan jumped in. Who are you? Ivy questioned. Someone who can get you out of here, Nyan answered. How would you do that? She asked with slight interest. Well, first I have the power to. Second, I have the power to, Nyan answered in two different tones, first nonchalant, second confident. A powerful man. But what do you want with me? She asked. Your expertise in herbology, Nyan answered. That can be given, but my service is pricey, Ivy spoke as she got up from the bed and walked to the glass. Each of her movements tugged at one's heartstrings, but none here would fall for it. I can afford it, Nyan replied. Well then, why don't you release me first? We can talk about our business face to face without this wall, Ivy spoke, pressing her body against the glass. Fine, Nyan stated and turned to Dr. Young. Open the door. Are you sure? Dr. Young asked. Yep, Nyan confirmed. Dr. Young then tapped on her tablet and swiped her card, opening the door that separated them from Ivy. Ivy saw that the door had opened and walked out with her hips swaying hypnotically. She then walked to Nyan and leaned closer, pushing her body against his. Why don't you remove that helmet? So we can have the conversation face to face, Ivy suggested in a very alluring tone. Sorry, Nyan replied. Why? Do you think I would judge you based on looks? Ivy asked, again in a very alluring yet toxic tone. Not for looks but for this. Nyan pulled out a syringe and stabbed Ivy. Ivy jumped back in shock, her hands covering her neck. She had a very high immunity, so she knew she would not die. It's a very powerful agent, Nyan noted. Sleep well, we'll talk back at my place. Finishing his sentence, he waved his hand to open the door, and Ivy just fell into it and vanished. The door was connected to his city, where she would be kept for research purposes. Where did you send her? Batman asked. To my place, Nyan answered. She will be fine, he assured. Batman glared silently. Nyan shrugged and took the road back. He watched the patients and arrived at Joker's cell, who was still pressing his face against the glass. Batsy, I knew you wouldn't forget about your best buddy, he smiled creepily. Nyan frowned, and Joker slammed into the back wall.